The Army of Demon and Devil. The Army of Demon and Devil. Fingerfox Chen Xiang shot 2 more arrows and killed 2 men hiding inside the trees, turned into a little bird and flew away. The true martial sect's disciples didn't know who acted secretly, but they realized the intention of other guy clearly, and that was to remind them that they were walking into an ambush and the attackers were hiding inside those thriving trees. After the ambushers realized that the true martial sect's disciples were vigilant, the devil sect disciples fled from the trees in quick succession. Just a moment ago they had witnessed 3 of their fellow men mysteriously blown into a mist of blood, rendering their numbers too low to even deal with the true martial sect's disciples. And if the hidden assailant once again made them lose few more of them, they would be finished completely. Once the devil sect disciples fled, they left a trail behind them. The true martial sect's disciples didn't give chase. They were worried that the enemy might intentionally wanted to separate them and attack the one who was slower than the rest. That's why they all gathered around. After Chen Xiang turned into a bird, he had a clear view of everything. After discovering that these devil disciples were fleeing, he immediately followed 2 of them. Inside these 100,000 devil mountains, many strange things were happening. Now that Chen Xiang had encountered these devil sect disciples, Chen Xiang reckoned that these devil path disciples must know something. According to Gu Dongchen, inside the 100,000 devil mountains, there was something blocking their advance. Only martial artists under the extreme state could enter easily. In other words, it is similarly true for the devil path sect. That was why he was not afraid of encountering some powerful devil path type. And not to mention he was now just a small bird. By looking at the speed and the way they were shuttling around the forest, it was quite clear that the 2 devil sect disciples were extremely familiar with the forest. As the devil province was nearby, it was obvious that the devil sect disciples would often visit here. The deep recess of the 100,000 devil mountains was very dangerous. Even those devil path sects type OONS didn't dare to enter. It was quite similar to the southern wasteland. Who knows what demon or devil was sleeping inside? Those devil sect disciples who ran away, after making a big round of the forest, unexpectedly, they started to gather. There were a total of 15 men, and all of them wore a black robe, and had a hood upon their heads. Their realms varied from 1st level to the 7th level of the true martial realm. Who the fuck attacked our people? That guy is certainly not a true martial sect's disciple. We have painstakingly spent so many days just to lure those guys, and just when we were about to be successful, some dumb fuck has destroyed our plan. A man cursed. That man must be an expert sin. We could not find his trail at all, even his attacks were quick yet very strong. We must return and report it to the captain ASAP. A man spoke before he started running. Others too started following him. Chen Xiang remembered that the direction they were walking was towards the depths of the 100,000 devil mountains. He hesitated for a moment, before giving them a chase. Although he had the appearance of a bird, he still had to be careful. After all, these devil sect disciples were all powerful experts of true martial realm. If they discovered that a bird had been following them for so long, they would definitely be suspicious. Chen Xiang followed them for an hour or so. Their running speed was not so fast, as they were mainly paying attention to the surrounding. They were extremely cautious. Now they have already entered the foggy area. It was the very same mist which Chen Xiang had seen from the outside. When he entered the foggy area, he couldn't find anything strange. According to Gu Dongchen, this area is covered in a sheet of dense fog all year round. Aren't the invaders from the demon and the devil world not going to attack the devil path martial artists? Chen Xiang was finding it a little difficult to believe. At present, the devil path men were moving against the righteous, rather than to increase their strength. Of course not. It depends on the temperament of the demons and devils invading our world. If it was a bunch of idiots who only know how to kill, then no matter if it is the devil path or the righteous, they will kill whoever they see. But if it is a bunch of intelligent guys, then they will win over the diabolical forces of this world bit by bit, and completely control the invading world. They will enslave the natives to mine the various resources of the world. Su Meiyao said. The demons and the devils would not be invading the human world for no benefit. Chen Xiang came to realize why every time so many people would always die. Chen Xiang followed the devil sect disciples to a well-hidden cave. Once he arrived at the entrance of the cave, he sensed a few powerful aura inside. Much to his surprise, there were actually 5 9th-level true martial realm devil sect disciples. We have been here for almost a month, yet we could not even get a single righteous disciple's hair. Let's withdraw quickly. We have almost investigated the strange things happening here, a man said in a heavy voice. After Chen Xiang came to hear this, he was slightly taken aback. Much to his dismay, the devil sect disciples had already investigated the things about the 100,000 devil mountains. So to say, it had nothing to do with the devil path sections. What a pity! I'm afraid that the righteous guys could not even imagine that 3,000 years ago a powerful devil prince was already resurrected and was now awake, and he is the one who had arranged a powerful barrier to guard this place. And it is this barrier which is restricting the Nirvana realm martial artists to come in and ravage this place. Another guy lamented. Chen Xiang was startled. If this place remained fortified till the catastrophe, wouldn't the demons and the devils invade all together, and finally ravage the Qinwu mainland to nothing, at one fell swoop? The breach in S.P.A.C. were generally not that big. The invaders from the demon and the devil world can only come slowly. You can simply attack them from the outside. But if a bunch of them gathered together, then it would be too frightening. Bai Yu exclaimed. Now there is already a very small breach, from which some weak demons and devils are able to pass through. A devil sect disciples once again said. This information shocked the Hel out of Chen Xiang. According to Chen Xiang's estimation, there was still a long time before the rift would appear. But contrary to his expectation, one was already there. After some discussion, the devil sect disciples decided not to ambush the righteous sect disciples. They all chose to withdraw because there was still the matter of a powerful devil prince, who was searching for some demons and devils who can be resurrected, in order to create a demon and devil army in advance. Although there is a rift, but an extremely powerful guy cannot come over. Otherwise, the spatial force will sense him, and he will be torn to shreds. The weak creatures naturally didn't have to fear anything. You must quickly find the suppressing devil divine exercise, then by using the heavenly sunfire, ravage everything here. Those little creatures dread that kind of flames. Su Meiyao discovered it was more serious than they had imagined. No one had imagined the resurrection of a powerful devil prince. A devil prince from 100,000 years ago. Who knows how powerful he was? Chen Xiang could not even imagine. Even more so, a devil prince who could even be resurrected should not be some ordinary guy. He definitely must have some terrifying devil technique. When he thought of this, Chen Xiang felt powerless. What made him depressed was that the suppressing devil divine exercise was hidden in the depths of the 100,000 devil mountains. If a lot of devil princes had been resurrected, then along with many little demons and devils, it was definitely going to be very difficult for him to get it. After passing through a canyon, the fog was even more denser, but Chen Xiang didn't sense any devil chi. Evidently it was safe here. If it was some place with rich devil chi, then it would be place where a large number of demons and devils were buried. Those weak devils coming here need to rely on the very same devil chi to increase their strength. After Chen Xiang cautiously flew for 3 days, suddenly, a terrifying roar came from the front, as if hundreds of thousands of men were roaring simultaneously. This roar was filled with violence and was creepy as well as intimidating. Double-headed snake demon. Double-headed snake demon. Finger Fox. From looking at the situation in his front, Chen Xiang was sure that a group of devils were sure to be present at the front. He had not imagined that there would be so many. He flew a little higher to get a clear picture of what was in his front. Initially, it was some mountains, but now they had been razed to the ground. A black mass of something was wriggling there now. It was as thick as huckleberries. It appeared to be more than 100,000. It's the evil demons from the demon domain. Su Miao spoke in a heavy voice. The evil demon was the name for the residents of demon domain. It would be first for Chen Xiang to encounter one. Most of these evil demons were a half-demon and half-human. Generally, they had the body of demon beast, a part of which was human. All in all, their body was extremely powerful, as well as stu or dysprosium. Amidst the group of evil demons in front stood a robust man with the body of snake and head of a man. Much to Chen Xiang's surprise, this robust man had two heads. The majority of evil demons were of a strange or grotesque figure. However, this double-headed snake demon was rather appalling. That's a double-headed snake demon. It is one of the stronger evil demon among the various demons in demon domain, and one of the rare ones. This guy should be in Nirvana realm. Long Shui explained. Chen Xiang in the form of bird flew even higher in the sky. He thought that he would not be found out. However, suddenly, the double-headed snake demon looked straight at him, which made his heart jump out of his chest. Go grab that flying bird! The double-headed snake demon yelled. Both of his mouths spoke together in an overlapping voice. Surprisingly, the voice was not only ear-piercing, it was also carrying a kind of sonic attack. Suddenly Chen Xiang noticed over 1,000 evil demons from the group flying straight at him. All of them had wings on their back. They looked as if the body of an eagle and a human had somehow joined together. Not only were they very ferocious, but they were also Astonies. HI plus Ingly quick. One by one their numbers grew at an Astonies. HI plus ing speed. In the blink of an eye, their numbers were over 10,000. Chen Xiang was scared out of his wits. However, his speed was also nothing to joke about. He swiftly bolted down from the sky and landed inside the forest. He was planning to use the lush forest to escape, however. The hawkmen who were chasing him were also extremely violent. They crashed right into the forest. In the blink of an eye, a large piece of forest turned bare. Chen Xiang flew into a small hole inside a tree and hid there. The environment was now filled with dust and sand. Although these hawkmen were large in number, but not one of them caught his trail. The double-headed snake was quite capable. He can clearly sense every degree of temperature around him. Even if you were hiding inside the clouds, both of his heads can clearly sense your temperature through the clouds. That's why you were found out. Long Shui quickly explained. I'm now helping you in hiding by changing your temperature to be the same as the environment around you. Long Shui had just finished speaking to Chen Xiang when that double-headed snake demon started swearing, bunch of good-for-nothings. Can't even catch a bird. Something was definitely wrong with that bird. It flew quickly as well as quite cleverly. Don't know who had sent it. Investigate us. The double-headed snake demon left only after walking in a big circle and investigating everything around here. Chen Xiang, who was hiding inside the small tree hole, let loose a big sigh of relief. The double-headed snake demon was extremely quick. In just a few blinks, he had arrived here. Not to mention that he was after all in the Nirvana realm. The gap between him and Chen Xiang was large. If Chen Xiang had been spotted, then he would have been in a big trouble. It appears that it was the double-headed snake demon who had been resurrected. This guy's vitality is quite Astonies. HI plusing. These kinds of evil demons are rather proficient in playing dead. After the opening up of the rift, unexpectedly, only the creatures from the demon domain are here. It seems that the devil domain still had not overlapped with our world. Su Meiyao said. Chen Xiang could be said to be someone who had read a lot of books, yet he was still ignorant of the matters of the devil and demon domain. While Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were quite knowledgeable, even more so was Long Shui. She knew a lot more than Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu altogether. After all, she had a massive amount of hereditary memories. Will the devil and demon domain join forces to deal with the human world? Chen Xiang asked. Not necessarily so. In the past sometimes they were allies and other times they were enemies. However, they both have the same mindset, and that is that the human domain must be destroyed. Anyhow, these guys are very arrogant by nature. Just because of some disagreement they will fight to the death with you. In the past, they had allied one time to repulse the enemies, but due to the emergence of some troubles, they became mortal enemies. In the past the human domain often drove a wedge between them, making the demons and devils fight each other. Bai Yuyu replied. Chen Xiang flew out of the tree hole and flew according to the map. He had already investigated more than enough about the 100,000 devil mountains. Now he needed to obtain the suppressing devil divine exercise. Now he came to realize why these devil sect disciples left in such a hurry. As there were hundreds of thousands of evil demons gathered here, and each and every one of them was quite formidable. Not to mention, they possessed the unique constant intuition and strength of a demon beast. Thereby, in a battle, they held more advantages than the humans. The suppressing devil divine exercise was surprisingly hidden inside a cave. It was just that the cave happened to be sealed very tightly. Chen Xiang could not understand why the person who constructed this place didn't take the suppressing devil divine exercise with him. If so, he would not need to charge through such a dangerous place. After Chen Xiang arrived outside the mountain, he didn't directly rush inside. On the contrary, he turned into a mole and dug a tunnel into the ground. There isn't any restrictive spell inside, but there is a very rich devil qi. Does this place have some demon or devil corpse? Long Shui said. This freaked out Chen Xiang. At this point, he had already dug into a Pa-S sage inside the cave. It was pitch black here. He stretched out his hand and released the flames to illuminate the dark Pa-S sage. At this time, he could also sense the aforementioned devil qi. The devil qi here was quite strange. It was unlike anything he had encountered before in the southern wasteland, very much different from those devil prints he had encountered. Is there really a corpse of some demon or devil inside? Chen Xiang was a little worried. Just from looking at the devil qi, he knew that the owner of that devil or demon corpse would have been an extremely powerful martial artist of his time. At least, he was in the Nirvana realm. Yes, anyhow you don't need to worry. This guy seems to be sealed. Whether he is alive or dead, that I don't know. Long Shui's words once again freaked the H.E.L. out of Chen Xiang. But fortunately, the terrifying demon or devil was sealed, which was a big relief for Chen Xiang. When Chen Xiang arrived at the end of the cave, he arrived at the belly of the mountain, which was not only very wide in space but also totally empty. At the center, there was a huge obelisk about a dozen zhang high. Chen Xiang reckoned that the suppressing devil divine exercise was buried under that enormous obelisk. He was having a hard time understanding how such an enormous obelisk came about here. When he illuminated the obelisk with his flames, the obelisk suddenly started sucking away the flames from his hands. What the F.U.C.K. is happening? Much to Chen Xiang's dismay, he could not even control the release of his flames. Surprisingly, the flames were like a fire dragon overflowing out of his palm and flews ing into the obelisk. Soon, the obelisk stopped absorbing the flames. The huge belly of the mountain also became very bright, for the gigantic obelisk was releasing an intense aura. At this time Chen Xiang understood why the suppressing devil diving exercise could not be taken away. because the entire exercise had been carved onto the obelisk, and the entire exercise was extremely long. The huge obelisk had many chanting formulas engraved completely on its surface. On such a ma's sieve obelisk, the characters engraved upon its surface were just the size of a thumb. Not to mention all four sides of the obelisk was completely packed with such small characters. One could imagine how complicated and abstruse the suppressing devil divine exercise was. The suppressing devil golden body. The suppressing devil golden body. Fingerfox looking at those countless little characters that were densely packed on the obelisk, Chen Xiang felt a burst of powerlessness coursing through his body. He sat down on the ground, spread his divine sense to give it a try. But, to no avail, he couldn't directly get the suppressing devil divine exercise. Let's see if I could get it after dripping a drop of blood on it. However, once again he was disappointed. The obelisk didn't show any reaction. Little rascal, conscientiously remember the content on the obelisk. This is the divine exercise, however. The chanting formula is relatively small. After you know it by heart, you'll be well versed in it. You will not feel that it is too long. You'll feel just the same as when you're cultivating the divine exercise of the four symbols and the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. Su Meiyao explained to Chen Xiang. At first, Chen Xiang also had to spend quite a long time before he could remember the entire Tai Chi subduing exercise. Now he could only clench his teeth and recite the chanting formula on the obelisk bit by bit. Only after contemplating for a while, Chen Xiang came to realize that the chanting formula's beginning was at the top, while the bottom of the very same side was the ending of the first part of the chanting formula. While on the surface right behind it constant I toot the second part, while left and right side altogether made up for the third part of the chanting formula. Chen Xiang turned into a bird and flew from top to bottom while in the process of reading the first part. What made him feel surprised was the fact that after he had memorized a sentence of the chanting formula by heart, that part would disappear from the obelisk. After spending 1 whole month, Chen Xiang finally succeeded in memorizing one part of the chanting formula by heart. One side of the obelisk was now completely blank. What was totally out of his expectation was that he now felt as if he came to understand but not really understand the abstruse principle of the suppressing devil divine exercise. He was secretly euphoric. He reckoned that once he was done with the entire chanting formula, he would have finished learning the suppressing devil divine exercise. Legend has it that the suppressing devil divine exercise was rather difficult to learn. Chen Xiang could now understand why. Because, first of all, one had to remember a very long chanting formula. He thought that the difficulty of the suppressing devil divine exercise lies in this very fact. Think of it, this should be the suppressing devil obelisk. During the time of the ancient battle of demons and devils, this kind of obelisks appeared throughout the many world. However, rumor has it that they didn't play much of a role in that battle. Now that it has appeared here, it should be for Pa-S, sing the suppressing devil divine exercise. But who placed it down here? Long Shui doubtfully said. It seems, once someone remembers the contents on its surface, the corresponding characters will disappear from the obelisk. Speaking of which, it seems that no one else had learned the suppressing devil divine exercise in the past. Su Meiyao felt a little doubtful. She too had heard of the suppressing devil obelisk. After thinking about it, Long Shui said, at the beginning, only after absorbing the little rascal's flames was the suppressing devil obelisk illuminated. I didn't even notice the text upon the obelisk when it was dark. Does the suppressing devil divine exercise needed fire spirit to cultivate it? In reciting the chanting formula, Chen Xiang suddenly spoke. Yeah, it needs the fire spirit to learn, moreover, a fire spirit above the rank of purple fire spirit. How did you know? It is not written anywhere. Bai Yu asked. She had been intently reading the text on the obelisk, and secretly memorizing it as well. Su Meiyao was doing the same. I'm not too clear about it. After I memorize these texts, my body feels hot, as if there is a flame that is in my brain, burning these very texts. That's how I came to know. Chen Xiang described that weird feeling, which surprised Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu. Although they didn't have the fire spirit, they still planned to memorize it completely. Another 2 months went by. The obelisk was now considerably dim, but it was still retaining a feeble firelight. Chen Xiang sat across the obelisk. He had finally memorized the entire suppressing devil divine exercise. After he had completely memorized it, he had fallen into an extremely wonderful state. Flames were constantly being released from his body, which had burned his clothes entirely. Little rascal's body is getting stronger and stronger at an Astoni's HI plusing speed. Oh my God, what the L is happening? Long Shui exclaimed. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu also seemed to notice this. Immortal and Devil Body Level 6. Level 7. Level 8. What is going on? He is still getting stronger. Su Meiyao was frightened out of her wits. 10th level. Bai Yuyu's ice-cold voice was carrying a trace of excitement. Apparently, she was happy for Chen Xiang in having such a fortuitous encounter. Before, Chen Xiang was at the 5th level of Immortal and Devil Body, but now all of a sudden he had soared to 10th level. Moreover, he was not showing any signs of halting, which rendered Long Shui along with Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu speechless from shock. Chen Xiang was just a true martial realm martial artist. One must know that in the mortal world, only when one reached the pinnacle of the extreme state, would he have such a level of a body. Su Meiyao took a long deep breath. 10th level, it is much slower now. If this brat will not rely on the Azure Dragon slaughtering Devil Blade, he would possess the strength equivalent to that of an 8th level true martial realm martial artist expert, and may contend with 9th level if he relied on Azure Dragon slaughtering Devil Blade. The 9th level of true martial realm martial artist expert for Su Meiyao was the one with multiple attributed veins and with many kinds of martial technique. Chen Xiang woke up. After he opened his eyes, he started laughing. His laughter was no different from Huang Jintian's maniac laugh. Quickly wear your clothes. Long Shui fumed in anger. Little rascal, what the hell happened? Su Meiyao quickly asked. Chen Xiang, while putting on his clothes, said with a smile, I have learned the suppressing devil divine exercise. Who knew that the suppressing devil divine exercise was supposed to be like this? I have now cultivated to the suppressing devil golden body. The suppressing devil golden body is invulnerable to any kinds of poison, fearless of various unique attacks from demons or devils. Moreover, I can also release the suppressing devil yuan qi, which is extremely lethal to demons or devils. The demon and devil domains martial artists were proficient in poison. Especially those evil demons from the demon domain, some of them had inborn poison. While there were those martial artists from devil domain who utilize poisonous things to aid them in cultivation. Invulnerable to any kinds of poison would truly act as a restraint against these demons or devils. Quite formidable. After you got the suppressing devil yuan qi, how much of your strength had advanced? Long Shui asked. Besides a powerful physical body, there is not much change in aspects to true qi. The suppressing devil yuan qi is only useful in facing demons and devils, and I'm already contented with that. Chen Xiang laughed and said. He arrived in front of the obelisk. What do you want to do? Bai Yuyu asked, but Chen Xiang had not responded to her. Much to everyone's dismay, Chen Xiang had blasted a powerful punch at the obelisk. However, he had not mobilized any true qi, he just used his physical strength. Nevertheless, he was still able to shake that giant obelisk. Moreover, many cracks had also appeared. After I have merged with the suppressing devil divine exercises chanting formula, I found some other things. It said that after I have learned the suppressing devil divine exercise, if I can break the obelisk, something good will appear. Chen Xiang said in excitement. After the giant obelisk was riddled with cracks, it suddenly broke off and turned into Hi plus Ning powder, which thereupon stuck upon the nearby walls. The belly of the mountain had turned extremely beautiful. Chen Xiang at this time noticed a square pit just below where the obelisk stood. He walked over to have a look, but he was freaked out, because he saw a girl lying in the pit. The girl was very beautiful and was wearing a very thin dress. Although her eyes were shut closed, from her ice-cold face one could easily tell that she was a cold, beautiful girl. Moreover, on the place where there should be a left eyebrow, there was a purple tattoo of a scorpion, which added a bit of charm to her. Suddenly, the cold beauty opened her eyes were Hi plus Ning in blue light. After she noticed Chen Xiang, her ice-cold yet charming face turned, even more, colder. Her blue pupils were BRIMMING with killing intent. She furiously roared before leaping out of the pit. Chen Xiang retreated a few steps. He had not imagined that after the obelisk had broken off, such a situation would take place. He now knew from where such an intense devil chi originated in the mountain belly. Scorpion-like woman, Finger Fox the girl had a very long braid draped over her bosom. After jumping in the air, she slumped towards the ground. However, just as she was about to hit the ground, her pair of snow-white feet lightly touched the ground, and she steadily came to a stop. Filled with a hostile look, the beautiful ice-cold girl's blue eyes stared upon Chen Xiang. The braid hanging over her bosom surprisingly had a purple-colored sharp hook at its end. It appeared to very dangerous, like a poisonous hook on a scorpion's tail. Have you learned the suppressing devil divine exercise? The eye with the purple scorpion tattoo twitched as the blue-eyed girl coldly asked. Along with the aura emanating from her, Chen Xiang felt extremely uncomfortable. Yes. Once Chen Xiang's voice fell, at lightning speed, the girl's foot fiercely swept over. Such a charming foot surprisingly erupted with a completely destructive power, which ruthlessly lashed upon Chen Xiang's cheek. Chen Xiang only felt a burning sensation on his cheek, before a fearsome impact raided him over. His body could not help but flew out from the impact, and crash on the cave walls. Upon those rugged stone walls of the mountain belly, a dent riddled with many cracks appeared. Puff! Chen Xiang spewed a mouthful of blood. This girl was far stronger than he had imagined. He guessed that she must at least be in the extreme state. He didn't expect that after he broke the obelisk, he would unexpectedly unseal and release such a powerful figure. If the suppressing devil divine exercise had not told him to do so, why would he even care to blow the obelisk for nothing? He was regretting it now. Only with this much skill? The blue-eyed girl coldly asked. She lightly tapped the ground, and her body was like a smoke as it floated towards Chen Xiang. In the blink of an eye, she appeared in front of him, and before he could do anything, both of her feet continuously sent flying kicks, which thereupon landed on Chen Xiang. At the moment, Chen Xiang was already embedded into the stone wall. He could do nothing but suffer those frightening attacks. Little girl, do not challenge my limit. Chen Xiang was fuming in anger. Suddenly, universe true qi started surging from his dantian, impacting every part of his body, as if it was sweeping the pain in the various parts of his body. His bones made a loud crackling noise, while the universe true qi coursed through his entire body. His entire body was filled with a terrifying amount of power. Like lightning, he stretched out his hand and grabbed a hold of the blue-eyed girl's bare foot. He vigorously squeezed his hand, only to hear the tender yet furious cries coming from the girl. When Chen Xiang was just about to crush the girl's tender jade-like foot, her long braid, like a scorpion's tail, attacked him. The sharp purple hook was glistening in a strange yet sinister aura as it plunged towards his chest. The blue-eyed girl's long braid was just like a part of her body, It was very flexibly controlled by her as she so desired. When the sharp purple hook at the end of that long braid was about to P.R.I.C. Chen Xiang's chest, he gave a stifling shout before forcefully flinging the girl, or else he would be P.R.I.C. ked by that sharp purple hook. Chen Xiang felt that this purple hook may very well be the most dangerous point of the girl. He felt it was no different than any poisonous scorpion's tail. Father has let you out, yet instead of feeling grateful, you are even trying to kill me. You ungrateful B.I.T.C. You better not let me get a hold of you or I will F.U.C.K. at least 100 times. Chen Xiang wiped the blood at the corner of his mouth. He was burning in anger, but he could only swear to vent his feelings. The blue-eyed girl's face turned as white as snow. In a trembling voice, she said, You dirty man, you dare to curse me with such vulgar words. While speaking, with a flicker, her tender figure once again flushed towards Chen Xiang. This girl's agility technique was extremely strange. It was quick as well as light, so fast that it was impossible to track her. However, Chen Xiang was also cultivating SHI+2, as he spread his divine sense. Every smallest movement in his field was within his grasp. Sensing the blue-eyed girl bouncing left and right, charging at him, a smile appeared on his face. The exact moment when he sensed that she was just about to arrive, he mercilessly blasted a transforming bone devil palm at her. Bang! A sonorous explosion resounded in the mountain belly, which was immediately followed by the shaking of the mountain. The mountain belly was riddled with cracks. But Chen Xiang, on the contrary, was left surprised, because his attack had not sent the girl flying as he had imagined. Much to his dismay, there was not even a bit of injury on her. Chen Xiang took a glance at the channel from where he had arrived. After all, he had used the transforming bone devil palm a moment ago, but that mysterious force which could melt the bones had unexpectedly no effect on this girl. He realized the strength disparity among them. Now his best option was to flee from her. That was the transforming bone devil palm. From whom did you learn it from? The blue-eyed girl's voice was carrying a trace of surprise. Noticing that Chen Xiang wanted to run, she waved her tender hands before a black aura shot out from her palm, landing dead right above the cave entrance. Before you know it, the entrance had been blocked by the stones. Chen Xiang didn't reply. When Bai Yuyu had taught him, he promised Bai Yuyu that it was going to remain a secret. Even on his deathbed, he was not allowed to speak. The blue-eyed girl, upon seeing that Chen Xiang was not replying, didn't pry for an answer and once again launched a swift and violent assault. Her offense was quite overbearing. She used both of her fists and feet, and occasionally she would thrust at Chen Xiang's chest using the sharp purple hook. The blue-eyed girl was getting stronger and stronger by the minute. Chen Xiang reckoned it must be due to her gradually recovering her strength after her seal was dispelled, which simply rendered him unable to fight back. He could only try laying out the black tortoise Luo Tian cover to defend, but, not long after it burst into a mist. What was troubling Chen Xiang the most was the purple hook on her braid. He held no doubt that if that purple hook pierced his chest, it would certainly gouge out his heart. Chen Xiang began fighting back. Just when the girl smacked a palm at him, he countered it with a fist. At the same time, he fired the Ice Spirit Devil Aura. Last time he had used the same trick to defeat Xiao Chou of the Herculean family. Ice Spirit Devil Aura! The blue-eyed girl exclaimed and withdrew her attack before taking a few steps back. With her ice-cold blue eyes, she sternly stared at Chen Xiang. Did Bai Yuyu taught you these? Chen Xiang was flabbergasted. To his dismay, the blue-eyed girl had accurately guessed the source of the Ice Spirit Devil Aura. Looking at Chen Xiang's expression, the blue-eyed girl sneered. She is actually not dead. While speaking, she once again started her relentless attack on Chen Xiang. Along with the recovery of blue-eyed girl's strength, it was getting more and more difficult for Chen Xiang to resist. Chen Xiang knew Su Meiyao and Bai Yu had one powerful foe. It was precisely that foe who had crippled them. He suspected that this girl may very well be that foe. If it was said that Chen Xiang was struggling to resist before, then now, he was taking a fair share of beating. The blue-eyed girl was getting stronger. "Little dragon, lend me your power. I'm going to make sure she have one deep, unforgettable memory," Chen Xiang in his heart shouted. At this time, he felt an incredibly hot feeling originating from his left arm. Long Shui was transferring her power to him. Even though after he drew support from Long Shui, he would feel an excruciating pain, but now he was boiling in anger. He threw everything at the back of his mind. Feeling the incredible strength in his left arm, Chen Xiang felt as if he was possessed by a heavenly god. With a furious roar and the speed of lightning, he thrust his palm towards the blue-eyed girl's bosom. Chen Xiang soon felt a big yet soft and rich elastic mass in his hand which he clutched tightly. The blue-eyed girl was shocked. She screamed in shame and anger, then shouted at Chen Xiang, "Take your dirty hands off me! I'm going to make a mince meat out of your hand!" While shouting, she mindlessly punched and kicked at Chen Xiang. However, Chen Xiang did not let it go. Not only that, but he also squirmed his fingers. Suddenly, a red blade, like a crescent moon, appeared in the blue-eyed girl's hand. Seeing Chen Xiang's arm was about to be cut, Bai Yu coldly shouted, "Stop!" Hearing Bai Yu's voice, the blue-eyed girl stopped her attack. Chen Xiang too withdrew his hands. Although it was very painful, the feeling he got from his hands was quite exhilarating. Chen Xiang's vulgar act by using her power had made Long Shui despise Chen Xiang. However, she was also feeling contented, for she too enjoyed that kind of feeling. "Humph, Princess Wuqing, it's really you." The blue-eyed girl's voice was briming with anger. She kept on staring at Chen Xiang. Her blue eyes were filled with a grim aura as if she could not wait to hack Chen Xiang into pieces. Devil Scorpion Princess. Devil Scorpion Princess. Finger Fox. The blue-eyed girl was unlike any evil demon from the demon domain, yet the devil chi on her was exceptionally heavy. Chen Xiang reckoned that she was from the devil domain. Chen Xiang suspected Bai Yu to be from the devil domain long ago. However, much to his surprise, she turned out to be a famous princess of the devil domain. Her antecedents were clearly extraordinary. Bai Yu came out of the ring. Garbed in simple white skirt and tunic, she gave off the impression of being holy and pure. No one could say that she belonged to the devil domain or cultivated any sort of devil exercise. Even though she appeared to be very weak now, the imposing aura exuding from her body was in no way weak. Her ice-cold pretty eyes that were filled with a hint of a strange aura glanced at the blue-eyed female. "Princess Purple Scorpion, you still haven't died? Why did you attack him? From what I can remember, you have given up on cultivating the ruthless devil exercise. You are not someone who will kill innocents indiscriminately, much less someone who has released you." Bai Yu's voice was even colder than the Princess Purple Scorpion, such coldness that it could make others feel cold. At this moment, Chen Xiang was extremely puzzled. Bai Yu was referred as Princess Wuqing and the blue-eyed female was Princess Purple Scorpion. But why were they called as such? Is their father some emperor in the devil domain? Sister Meiyao, what's the connection between her and Sister Yu? What is their background? Chen Xiang asked. "Don't ask too much, just wait and watch." Su Meiyao didn't tell Chen Xiang anything, even though she knew that Chen Xiang could very well tell that their background was truly extraordinary. However, she still didn't have any intention to tell Chen Xiang too much. Prince Purple Scorpion looked at Chen Xiang, nibbled on her lips and said, "I want to kill this bastard. Even 1,000 deaths would not be enough to subside my anger. He actually dared to do such thing to me. I really want to kill him." "Pooh!" Chen Xiang spat the blood in his mouth and said, "Humph, who told you to not be grateful and instead attacked me? Even a desperate dog will jump off the wall, let alone a human. This is what you brought upon yourself. At most, I can let you touch mine in return." Princess Purple Scorpion shouted in anger, and was about to charge at Chen Xiang, but she was stopped by Bai Yuyu. "Bai Ziqian, there is still a powerful guy outside. Not to mention, you're not at your best now, it is not the time to waste your strength." Bai Yuyu's voice was solemn, which made Bai Ziqian immediately stop her action, otherwise, she definitely would have beaten Chen Xiang for a while. "Princess Wuqing, although I don't know why you have such a big bet on this rascal, you must have your own reason. Are you going to return to the Devil Domain with me?" Bai Ziqian asked. Her complexion had now eased a lot. "No, I've my own plans." Bai Yuyu shook her head. "You've changed. I think you should not need this tea." Tli, it's not you. Have you dispersed your power? Why is your current aura so weak?" Upon discovering her situation, Bai Ziqian said with a frown. She immediately took hold of Bai Yuyu's wrist. "Your injuries are actually so serious. What about your junior sister? She can't be dead, otherwise she would have definitely saved you." Although Bai Ziqian's voice was now cold as ice, Chen Xiang could still discover that she was very much concerned about Bai Yuyu, which was also quite clear from the look in her eyes. Bai Yuyu sighed lightly, but her voice remained as cold as ice. "You don't need to be so concerned about me, I know how to walk my own path." Bai Ziqian closed her eyes, took a deep breath and said, "You best take care of yourself. Because of you, I'll let this brat off the hook this time. Initially, I just wanted to try his strength, but who knew that this brat was actually a rogue?" Chen Xiang was furious. He suddenly shouted, "Your sister is a rogue, a girl like you hitting others is a rogue you." Bai Yuyu suddenly pulled Chen Xiang and said in a low voice, "I'm her sister." Chen Xiang suddenly swallowed his next words. Much to his surprise, this scorpion-like girl turned out to be Bai Yuyu's sister. Until now he suspected that this devil-scorpion princess must have a close relations. Hi+P with Bai Yuyu, but how could he have known that they were related by blood? What made Chen Xiang speechless was the fact that after both sisters saw each other in such a long while, they surprisingly remained cold. If it was an ordinary person, he would definitely cry in tears and hug his brother or sister. Chen Xiang, after finding that Bai Yuyu had relatives, he felt secretly happy for her. Before, he believed that Bai Yuyu neither had any family nor any friends. "Brat, let me tell you, if it was someone else, during the fight, he would have long been poisoned to death by me." Bai Ziqian coldly snorted. However, she was taken aback by the fact that Chen Xiang could actually cultivate the suppressing devil divine exercise. She very much understood her sister, Bai Yuyu. She knew Bai Yuyu had invested a lot of effort in this little rascal, or else she would not have said on such powerful devil techniques to Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang sneered. "Father is cultivating the suppressing devil divine exercise and is invulnerable to poison. If you can poison me, I'll kneel down and kowtow to admit I was wrong. However, if you can't poison me?" Bai Ziqian, of course, didn't believe that she couldn't poison Chen Xiang. First of all, she didn't know too much about the suppressing devil divine exercise. She only knew that it was quite lethal to the devil domain's cultivators. Most of all, she was too confident about her poison. "If I can't poison you to death, then I'll..." Bai Yuyu quickly pulled her. "Bai Ziqian, forget about it. You will absolutely fall in his hand." Bai Yuyu had witnessed Chen Xiang had taken advantage of many women resorting to the same methods. She didn't want her own sister to be taken advantage by Chen Xiang. "Wuqing, are you doubting my strength?" Bai Ziqian didn't believe in hearsay. Chen Xiang was having a little difficulty in understanding their relations. Hi+P. Obviously, the two were sisters and yet they were shouting each other's name. It seemed that both of them were not related by blood. "As you Wisconsin H. Plus," Bai Yuyu coldly snorted. Her sister was not paying any heed to her advice. She could only let her suffer a loss for her to realize it. Besides the similar disposition of Bai Ziqian and Bai Yuyu, there weren't any other similarities. There was a remarkable disparity between their appearances. Bai Ziqian had blue eyes with a purple scorpion tattoo at the corner of her eye. A whip was hung at her waist. She had a charm of her own, but her beautiful face was as cold as ice. Bai Yuyu, on the other hand, was an ice-cold fairy. Her elegant and aloof temperament and the peerless beautiful face had an elegance in her own way. Her beauty could ruin and overturn a nation. Since the very first time he saw her, Chen Xiang had been completely enthralled by her. Chen Xiang kept on staring at Bai Yuyu in his heart. He was having a good laugh. He sneered and said, "If you can't poison me, then what are you going to do? At that time, I'll be at your disposal. You can do anything you want to me." Bai Ziqian confidently replied. She had complete confidence in her poison, let alone, Chen Xiang was not even in the extreme state. Even if it was a Nirvana realm expert, she could easily put him down. "You have not completely recovered your strength." Bai Yuyu already knew the result. Chen Xiang was going to win for sure. "So what? It's sufficient to deal with this brat." Bai Ziqiang, while speaking, charged at Chen Xiang. Suddenly, her jade-like palm was completely wrapped in black qi. It was nothing but poisonous. "I have a heavenly poison body. In other words, my entire body is poisonous. If others want to touch me, so long as I didn't withdraw the poison, no matter how formidable he is, he will be poisoned from just touching my body. I'm going to use the weakest poison, though it cannot kill you, it will be enough to put you down." Bai Ziqian, while speaking, lightly smacked a palm at Chen Xiang, which landed upon Chen Xiang's arm. Chen Xiang smiled and said, "Do you know what I'm thinking at the moment?" "What are you thinking?" Bai Ziqian subconsciously asked. "I'm thinking of what I'm going to do to you. You're definitely going to lose. Your poison can't even penetrate my skin." Chen Xiang laughed as the poisonous qi was stopped by the black tortoise adamantal armor. "Invulnerable to poison. Invulnerable to poison, Finger Fox. Thanks for everyone's concern. I'm fit and fine, just moved to a new flat. I was basically busy with all the daily routines and my job." Contrary to what Bai Ziqian had imagined, Chen Xiang didn't fall down and was even able to laugh and talk, which made it difficult for her to understand. She secretly clenched her teeth and released even more poisonous qi, yet not even a bit of poison could invade Chen Xiang's body. Although these poisonous qi would automatically drill into his pores, but they would immediately be spilled back out right after. Evidently, something was rejecting the poisonous qi. "Hey, haven't I said? I have learned the suppressing devil divine exercise and I'm invulnerable to poison. You still don't believe?" Chen Xiang laughed and asked. Bai Ziqiang refused to believe, she coldly said. "Impossible, my poisonous qi can destroy your body directly. Let alone your weak body, even if it was someone with a 20th level immortal and devil body, it would still be difficult for him to resist my poison. Aren't you using some secret method to resist my poison?" Chen Xiang spread his hands, smiled and said, "Even if I was using some secret method, doesn't it mean that your poison is useless? Hey, do you want to throw in the towel?" Bai Ziqian would like to try again, but when she thought of how much of her poisonous qi failed to poison Chen Xiang, she could only concede. She hurled her head and gave a cold snort. From the look on her face it was quite evident that she remained unconvinced. "What about the poison in that purple hook? Do you have its antidote?" Chen Xiang looked at the hook that was SHI plus Ning in a bizarre purple aura. He was secretly curious. He reckoned that it must be most toxic venom in Bai Ziqian A.R.S. Enel. He didn't know what was the heavenly poison body, however. He knew that her whole body was poisonous. He wanted to try whether the suppressing devil golden body was truly invulnerable to poison or not. Bai Yuyu was shocked. She quickly came forward to stop the fight. "That purple hook is very toxic. Although it can be cured, at the very least you will not be able to move for 1 month." Bai Ziqian nodded her head. "It's true. I have the antidote with me. Even if I gave it to you in time, it will take at least 1 month for you to expel the poison. Moreover, during this month, you will suffer an excruciating pain. Bai Yuyu's complexion turned ugly, a hint of fear flashed past her eyes. I've experienced it firsthand. Once I was not careful and was ked by that hook. It was very painful. Bai Ziqian found it preposterous that Chen Xiang could resist that kind of poisonous qi. That was why she intended to throw in the towel. She didn't want Chen Xiang to try the poison on the purple hook. Even though she appeared to be ominous and cold, she noticed that Chen Xiang was her sister's hope, and no matter what, she didn't want to ruin her hope. From the very beginning, Bai Yuyu and Bai Ziqian, these two sisters believed that Chen Xiang would be scared by the poisonous hook, but who knew that an excited look would appear on his face when looking at the purple poisonous hook. Chen Xiang, in order to thoroughly convince Bai Ziqian, fiercely grabbed the long braid draped over her bosom and ked his wrist by that purple hook. The two beautiful sisters had never imagined this kind of situation, and when they wanted to stop him, it was already too late. It all happened in an instant. Bai Ziqian quickly took out a purple dan and handed it to Chen Xiang. Quickly take it. Recovery might take a while. Although this kind of poison can't kill you in an instant, it will bring you an excruciating pain. It is inside your blood vessels. The venom has already spread to your whole body. Bai Ziqiang said with a frown. Her voice sounded extremely anxious. Chen Xiang didn't take the antidote. He calmly smiled. Your poison seemed to have no effect on me. Chen Xiang was unafraid of some pain. He had tempered his body in the furnace, in the immortal and devil pool, not to mention the torture he had undergone to that old madman, his teacher. Facing some pain was just common for him. That was also why he dared to try. What? Nothing? Do you not feel extremely cold? Doesn't your whole body feel as if it had been stabbed by tons of ice needles, even the head? Bai Ziqian was taken by surprise. She couldn't help but ask. Bai Yuyu too had an inconceivable look hanging on her face. Previously she heard Chen Xiang say that he was invulnerable to poison because of the suppressing devil golden body, but she had confidence in her sister's poisoned hook. Every person in the heavenly realm dreaded that kind of poison, let alone Chen Xiang, this true martial realm little man. Chen Xiang pursed his lips as a grin appeared on his face. I'm not feeling anything. If you don't believe me, I can try it again for you. Thus, under the eyes of dumbfounded cold sisters, Chen Xiang once again grabbed the purple poisonous hook at the end of the braid and ked his wrist. Moreover, this time he stabbed it even deeper and kept it under his skin for a long time. If he didn't want Bai Ziqian to be thoroughly convinced, Chen Xiang didn't need to torture himself. Currently, he had removed the black tortoise adamantal armor so that the poisonous hook could stab into his flesh and blood. However, he still didn't feel anything. After Chen Xiang had removed the poisonous hook from his wrist, he wiped the hook cleanly and played around with it. Nothing happened to him, not even a bit. Looking at this, the sisters were shocked out of their wits. They were completely speechless. Is there poison left in your purple hook? Bai Yuyu took a deep breath, calmed herself down before asking. It is poisonous. If you don't believe me, you can give it a try. Bai Ziqian was now thoroughly convinced that Chen Xiang was indeed invulnerable to poison. She coldly harumphed and pulled her braid back. Apart from her, Chen Xiang was the only person in the whole world who can play with the poisonous hook like this. Chen Xiang smiled and said, Now are you convinced completely? What do you want me to do? If you want me to die, I'll die. Bai Ziqian coldly said. When she spoke, her calm and composed look left Chen Xiang surprised. Much to his surprise, she happened to be so straight and decisive. Little rascal, she is my elder sister. You better handle it well. Bai Yuyu gave him a glare which suddenly poured cold water right on all Chen Xiang's eagerness to create trouble. Chen Xiang slightly sighed. A while ago he had so vigorously grabbed the big rabbit of hers. He had taken advantage of her so cheaply. All right. From now on you'll address Sister Yu as younger sister. Then he turned to Bai Yu and said, Sister Yu, you two will address her with proper formalities. You'll call her elder sister, now that will be more like a family. I truly can't understand you. Chen Xiang noticed the two were looking at each other with a complex look in their eyes. He urged, Is it that difficult? Sister Yu, my condition is very loose. Bai Ziqian faintly let out a sigh, affectionately looked at Bai Yu and gently said, Younger sister. At this very moment, Bai Yu's eyes turned moist, 2 lines of tear fell and trickled down her face as she threw herself into the arms of Bai Ziqian. She sobbingly said, Elder sister? Bai Ziqiang too started crying. She tightly embraced Bai Yu. The 2 girls tightly held on to each other as they broke into tears, which made it difficult for Chen Xiang to understand, because he felt that it was only normal to address each other like this. Inside the ring, Su Meiyao laughed and said, Little rascal, you're really something. Well done. Chen Xiang laughed and said, Why don't you give me a reward then? How about giving me a kiss or taking a bath with me? Pooh! Why are they acting like this? Chen Xiang doubtfully asked. Can't you understand from their characters? Since childhood, they grew up in a very cruel environment. Their father was very formidable. He had many wives, at least over 100. As for sons and daughter, it is needless to say. They were born to the same mother. Right after their birth, both of them were thrown in a place where they underwent brutal methods of cultivation. They didn't get the chance to see their mother, not even once. Their mother had a cold constant intuition, that's why both of them were born with the extreme yin divine vein and both had a pair. In order to turn them into a vicious and ruthless devil princess, since childhood, they were not allowed to act like sisters. They could only call each other by name or their tli. They were not allowed to have any feelings. However, finally they encountered their mother. Their mother happened to be an extremely strong martial artist, and since then she was secretly communicating with them, and gradually planted a seed of kindness in their hearts. That's why they were unlike their other brothers and sisters. Chen Xiang did not expect that they have such a father. He actually treated his sons and daughter as tools. This made him extremely furious. The environment they grew up in was very cruel. Even if they had a pretty good talent, they could still be easily killed. Moreover, killed by someone who had the same blood flowing as them, their own blood relatives. Su Meiyao's voice started to turn angry. Then, Chen Xiang wanted to know more about Bai Yu. Finally, their mother was killed by a woman. Their father died during the last great battle of the 3 realms. Su Meiyao didn't go on, she found out that she had said too much. A rare smile, Fingerfox Su Meiyao didn't come out, but Chen Xiang obtained one very crucial information. Bai Yu and Su Meiyao were someone who had experienced the great battle of the 3 realms 100,000 years back. In other words, their strength was very terrifying, far more than he had imagined. Chen Xiang was not stupid. After some line of thinking, very soon he was able to deduce that the person who lured Bai Yu and Su Meiyao to the immortal and devil cliff was very likely the same woman who had murdered Bai Yu's mother. However, for the sake of some blood pact, that woman had not killed Su Meiyao and Bai Yu. She just stripped off their clothes, took their everything and injured them heavily. Don't think too much, you're currently facing the fast approaching great catastrophe. It's nothing you can joke about, you need to focus on that. Su Meiyao let out a light sigh. Bai Yu and Bai Ziqian, the two hugged for a long time, also cried enough in their lifetime. They both looked at Chen Xiang with a gratified look in their eyes. Don't worry, Sister Yu is my benefactor, if not for her I won't be standing here. Chen Xiang waved his hand and said, Elder sister, what are you planning to do next? Bai Yu asked. I'll go back. The great battle of the 3 realms is about to start. I've been sealed for 100,000 years. I must restore my strength as soon as I go back. I've missed last time, this time I'm not going to miss it again. I will not let those demon domain guys go. Bai Ziqian ruthlessly said. Imprisoned for 100,000 years. Chen Xiang reckoned that when the suppressing devil divine exercise fell to the mortal world, she was suppressed here. Sister Ziqian, who imprisoned you down here? When I learned the suppressing devil divine exercise, it reminded me to break the obelisk, and that's why you were able to come out. Chen Xiang could not help but stare at Bai Ziqian's chest, which not too long ago had been ruthlessly kneaded by him. Thinking of this point, Bai Yuyu suddenly mirrored in anger. However, she knew Chen Xiang was not a bad guy, and he was also her benefactor. It was all because of him that she and her younger sister were able to break past that one barrier in their relations. Hi+P, leading them to finally accept each other. I don't know who that guy was, I only know that the suppressing devil divine exercise originated from his hands. And as I was defeated by someone who had the suppressing devil divine exercise once, I sought him out to discuss the suppressing devil divine exercise. I wanted to know why in the BLOODYHEL did I lose. When Bai Ziqian spoke till here, her whole face was red in anger, yet the look in her eyes was completely opposite. There was a sliver of fear in them. Using just one finger, that guy had defeated me, and so I agreed to be sealed inside the giant obelisk, and was imprisoned until today. Bai Ziqian suffered defeat under a finger. The owner of that finger was terrifying indeed. Even Long Shui was feeling surprised. Someone's here, it's the double-headed worm. Long Shui said with disgust. Chen Xiang hastily told Bai Ziqian, the double-headed snake demon is coming. We have created no small commotion earlier. This guy must be coming here because of that. Double-headed snake demon? I'll take care of it. After I've dealt with it, I'll take my leave. Bai Ziqian indifferently said. Seeing such confidence coming from Bai Ziqian, Chen Xiang heaved a sigh of relief. Sister Ziqian, not only are you beautiful, you are also so formidable. Thank you for your help. Bai Ziqian harumphed lightly, but Chen Xiang's compliments had put him in her good grace. At least in her opinion, Chen Xiang was the first person to compliment her. Generally, others upon seeing her, they would either avoid her like a plague, or attack brutally, and if not then they would not dare to raise their head, not to mention speak anything to her. Now she knew why Bai Yuyu placed all her hopes on Chen Xiang, because she even thought that Chen Xiang had a strange kind of charisma which was totally unlike anyone else. Sister Ziqian, where are you going? How about you stay here for a couple of days? Chen Xiang walked over to Bai Ziqian and took Bai Ziqian's jade-like hand and said while shaking her hand, please stay a few days to accompany Sister Yu. No, my time is very tight. If I'm not wrong, that Su surnamed seductress is certainly beside her. They are totally inseparable. Bai Ziqian firmly declined as she threw Chen Xiang's hands away. She had a strange kind of feeling. She did not expect that a man would actually take the initiative to pull her hand. Chen Xiang was very curious why Su Meiyao did not come out to meet an old friend. Surprisingly, she nested inside the ring. Bai Ziqian was indeed in a hurry. She lightly waved her hand as a giant cave appeared before her, yet it didn't produce the slightest of vibration or even an iota of broken stones. Chen Xiang was stupefied by her strength. He reckoned that such a feat would be impossible for Gu Dongchen. As the giant cave opened wide, Chen Xiang and the others could see the group of half-human half-beast creatures outside. Bai Ziqian on seeing this slightly frowned. The demon domain creatures are so ugly, go to H.E.L.L. While speaking, her cold and empty voice sound burst out with sonic waves one after another which shook the air as they rippled through the cave up to the other end. Chen Xiang felt as if the S.P.A.C. in front of him was distorting. Those countless of evil demons were smashed to pieces under those S.P.A.C. ripples. They didn't even have the chance to let out a final cry before they die. It only lasted an instant, yet the evil demons in front had been wiped out by Bai Ziqian. Chen Xiang's jaw dropped. This scared the H.E.L. out of Chen Xiang, his hands involuntarily seized by Yu Yu's jade-like hand. He was utterly terrified. Only the double-headed snake demon remained standing in front. His two hideous heads were briming with fear. His whole body was laden with wounds. Although he had survived, his big body had been torn by that power. Bai Ziqian, seeing the dreading appearance of Chen Xiang, felt very happy. In a flash, her figure disappeared and reappeared behind the double-headed snake demon. Her pair of jade-like palms burst out with a purple qi which completely wrapped her palms as she struck towards its two heads. After her pair of palms landed on the two heads, purple blood suddenly overflowed. At the same time, Bai Ziqian flung her purple hook as it penetrated the double-headed snake demon's chest. Seeing the double-headed snake demon suddenly lying on the ground while letting out heartbreaking shrills, everyone had goosebumps. MPS. My poison is still useful. Bai Ziqian proved that she still had poison on her hook. Thereby, she smacked a palm against the double-headed snake demon as it blasted into nothing. Not even a dreg remained. The double-headed snake demon was at least in the Nirvana realm, yet he was so easily killed by Bai Ziqian. This kind of departure was very daunting to Chen Xiang. Sister Yu Yu, your elder sister is very powerful. Chen Xiang let go of Bai Yuyu's hands, which made Bai Yuyu coldly snort. Glancing at the redness that was left on her jade-like hands due to being tightly grabbed by Chen Xiang, she snorted and said, "Truly useless, this is just the tip of the iceberg." With a flash, Bai Ziqian arrived beside Bai Yuyu and coldly looked at Chen Xiang. "If you dare to bully my sister, I will certainly peel your skin." After she finished threatening Chen Xiang, Bai Ziqian warmly looked at Bai Yuyu and hugged her before gently speaking, "Younger sister, elder sister has to leave now. If I stay here for a long time, my power will be restricted and my strength will also decline. I am afraid that we will only see each other during the great battle of the three realms. Please forgive me because I cannot stay here with you." Bai Yuyu said in a gentle tone, "Sister, it doesn't matter, I have a friend with me here. All my life, I am truly happy now. I now realized what's the meaning of life. You don't need to worry about me." Bai Yuyu glanced at Chen Xiang and smiled. She showed a beautiful smile. Chen Xiang thought that the best thing he had obtained during this trip was that smile. It was a kind of smile which was full of passion for the future and ardent love for life. Chen Xiang felt that Bai Yuyu didn't need to disperse the ruthless devil exercise because currently the 7 emotions and 6 desires were now completely engraved on her soul. Chen Xiang also smiled to her. It was a very jovial smile coming right from the heart. Su Meiyao and Long Shui also smiled similarly. Gathering of experts. Gathering of experts. Finger Fox, upon noticing that her younger sister had changed a lot, Bai Ziqian was extremely happy. Although she knew it was all accredited to Chen Xiang, yet to this little devil, Chen Xiang, she coldly snorted. She was still feeling a little pain in her chest. If someone else had done such a vulgar thing, she would have certainly tortured him for a good several thousands of years before finally killing him. "Younger sister, if possible, please let go of the ruthless devil exercise now." Bai Ziqian wiped the tears on Bai Yuyu's face. Everyone has their own fragile side. The same was true even for the iceberg beauty, Bai Yuyu. She was reluctant to part with her elder sister. "It's not needed. The ruthless devil exercise doesn't pose a threat to me at the moment. I also might not be able to practice it." Bai Yuyu shook her head. Bai Ziqian heaved a light sigh and said, "Then you have to be careful. Elder sister will leave now, we will meet again later." Bai Yuyu nodded her head, gave a smile to Bai Ziqian and said, "Elder sister, goodbye." Bai Ziqian kissed her forehead, smiled and waved her hand. Immediately a tear appeared before her as she stepped into the rift and disappeared. It was quite rare to see Bai Yuyu acting like a little girl. It could be regarded as an eye-opener for Chen Xiang. After Bai Ziqian left, Chen Xiang imitated Bai Yuyu's ordinary girl-like shy tone and said, "Elder sister, goodbye." Listening to this, Su Meiyao burst into laughter, while Bai Yuyu tenderly harumphed and rushed over to Chen Xiang and smacked him before returning to the ring. "Is this S.P.A.C. tear?" Chen Xiang looked at the gradually disappearing rift and said with emotions. "One day you can also do it," Bai Yuyu replied. Now she turned a lot more lively, though she still had a cold look on her face. However, it was because she had lived like that for so many years, and it was not going to change now. But at least while talking to Chen Xiang, her tone is a lot warmer such that it didn't make anyone else feel repugnant. Even if she remained the same, no one would find her detestable as she was still a big beauty and her voice was pleasant to hear. Currently, Chen Xiang was finding it a little difficult in getting used to her new change. Chen Xiang now remembered that he had already spent more than 3 months in here. Although a lot more evil demons had arrived in these 3 months, they had all been annihilated by Bai Ziqian, which relieved a lot of pressure from Chen Xiang. He turned into a little bird and traced his road back. Once in a while, he would chirp because he was feeling happy and also he was enjoying the break he was getting while flying. "Sister Meiyao, why didn't you come out to meet Sister Ziqian?" Chen Xiang asked. "There is a little problem between us, that's why I didn't want to meet her." Su Meiyao tenderly harumphed as she replied. "What problem? Can you tell me?" Chen Xiang curiously asked. "Cannot." Su Meiyao flatly refused, which made Chen Xiang even more curious. He knew it was going to be like this, but he still wanted to give it a try. Chen Xiang flew out of the 100,000 Devil Mountain. Although many of those evil demons had been killed, in the future, more would arrive. Moreover, the large formation was still active. However, as the double-headed snake demon was already dead, there was no one to control the array. The barrier would now slowly lose its effect. He was now regretting that he didn't ask Bai Ziqian to destroy it. After returning to Tianmen City, Chen Xiang discovered that the city had actually become very lively. After inquiring about it, he came to know that because the Hero A.S. assembly was going to be held soon, disciples of various sects and clans had arrived here, and major sects of other mainlands were also arriving one after another to discuss how to deal with the approaching catastrophe. Chen Xiang returned to the extreme martial sect. As soon as he stepped into the main gate, Gu Dongchen suddenly appeared before him. "Fantastic, I thought you were dead. Otherwise, I might have been pestered to death by Lu Menger." Gu Dongchen heaved a sigh of relief as he dragged Chen Xiang to the extreme martial mysterious realm. Inside the private room, only Chen Xiang and Gu Dongchen were inside. Chen Xiang organized his hair, which had become messy because Gu Dongchen flew too fast. Although everyone who was sent to investigate had returned, they didn't find anything. "You, on the other hand, stayed there for more than 3 months. What did you find?" Gu Dongchen hastily asked. "Representatives of the other mainlands are coming one after another. If we didn't have any information, they will surely laugh at us." Chen Xiang pursed his lips and said, "If they have guts, they can give it a try. The situation there is not very optimistic." From the crack in the SPAC to the many small evil demons arriving at the mortal world, Chen Xiang told everything to Gu Dongchen. Of course not the part regarding the suppressing devil divine exercise and Bai Ziqian. "Did you set the fire yet?" Gu Dongchen felt that the situation was very serious. However, after he came to know that the powerful double-headed snake demon was dead, he heaved a sigh of relief because very soon the barrier would break. "Let me rest a little bit. I have killed too many evil demons, otherwise why do you think I stayed there for so long?" Chen Xiang said. After Gu Dongchen got the useful information, he was filled with joy. He knew that sending Chen Xiang there would definitely lead to a great harvest. However, because of this, Lu Menger sought him every day or two to ask him about Chen Xiang's whereabouts. "Young martial uncle, you are truly something. It seems that Lu Menger already loves you wholeheartedly." When she knew that you have not come out after so long, she was worried to death. You should quickly see her. She is inside the divine weapon shop of Tianmen City. Apparently, she has also brought your wife. Sai, young martial uncle, has a really good fortune with girls. Gu Dongchen could not hide his envy as he looked at Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang kicked him before quickly leaving the extreme martial sect for the divine weapon shop. As soon as he stepped into the shop, he saw a couple of boys wearing a gorgeous dress sitting on some chairs. They all were very handsome. They were no different than any girl, dressed very clean, a precious jade hung on their waist and a fan in their hand. Truly formidable, true martial realm 7th level, 8th level guys. Moreover, their true chi is very vigorous and pure. It looks like their background is very good. Chen Xiang was secretly shocked upon discovering their strength. Chen Xiang for the first time arrived at the extreme martial sect's divine weapon shop. The people inside only thought that he was a little familiar, but they couldn't put their finger on it. They didn't recognize him because the dress he wore was rustic, his hair was a mess. Moreover, he also had a beard. Who would associate him to the all-famous Chen Xiang? Now he was titled as the strongest youth of the Qinwu mainland, the youngest and fiercest alchemist. He was the idol of many young martial artists. "I'm looking for a person," Chen Xiang said in a low voice. He didn't want to take the divine weapon Heavenly Empire's token, lest others misunderstand his and Lu Menger's relations. Hi+P because now he realized how rare this token was. He ran straight from the extreme martial sect and didn't have the time to put any disguise. He was afraid that Lu Menger might have left for the 100,000 Devil Mountain to look for him. When he arrived here, he didn't sense Lu Menger or Shuexianxian. It seemed that his divine sense was blocked by some powerful barrier. "Are you also looking for Shuexianxian? I advise you to go back and dress up, or do you want her to see you like this? And you have to line up too." A man sitting nearby stared at Chen Xiang with a look of disgust as he ridiculed. Chen Xiang touched the hard beard on his chin, smiled and said, "Brother, why are you looking for Shuexianxian? Of course to marry her. Didn't you also come here for the same?" The purple-robed man sneered. Chen Xiang suddenly burst into laughter. While laughing he loudly shouted, "Xianxian, come down for me, someone's here to marry you. These guys have been waiting for you for a long time. Get together. Get together." Finger Fox. As for the reply for the stable release, all I can say, I'm trying. I'll be trying for 2 chapters from now to end of this month, till we get 30 chapters. May 30th chapter of this month. Chen Xiang was now treated like an idiot by those couple of youths sitting inside the divine weapon shop, but soon they found out that they were idiots themselves. Because Shuexianxian that they have been waiting for a long time, much to their dismay, had actually come down. She wore a light green longuette, along with a pure and enthralling beauty and an enthralling charm. She looked extremely tempting. While laughing tenderly, she very jovially came next to Chen Xiang and pulled Chen Xiang's arm. They appeared to be very intimate. Chen Xiang pinched her cheeks, smiled and said, "How can you do this? Everyone have come from far away to marry you, you should at least meet them." Chen Xiang glanced at those youths and smiled. Those handsome youths were dumbfounded. No matter how much they smashed their head, they could not understand why their legendary fairy was so intimate with such a rustic guy. This made them angry and jealous. "I have already met them 3 times, but they still haunt me." Shuexianxian harumphed lightly. "Who are you?" one of the youth asked with a frown. He seemed to be unwilling to accept this, but after thinking about it, the youth believed that he had the strength to have everything, not to mention, he was extremely rich. It should not be too difficult to pursue Shuexianxian. Chen Xiang smiled and said, "I'm her husband, Chen Xiang." Chen Xiang. Upon hearing these 2 words, those youth were all surprised for a moment. This time Chen Xiang noticed that these youths were the outstanding youngsters from the other mainlands. "You are the rumored first youngest martial artists of Qinwu mainland?" a white-robed youth said with a look of despise. In his opinion, although Chen Xiang was not as handsome as him, at the very least he should be someone with grace and elegance. The one and only. Chen Xiang lightly smiled and said, while caressing Xue Xianxian's cheek with his fingers. Xue Xianxian also naughtily pinched his face. The two who were right in front of them were flirting, which made these several youths from overseas green with envy. Brother Xiang, let's go up. Don't talk to them. These days Xue Xianxian had been very annoyed from all these pesterings, not to mention, there had been no news about Chen Xiang. She was extremely worried about him. At this moment she was feeling very happy after meeting with him. Chen Xiang, if you are a man, duel with me, the purple-robed youth shouted. Xue Xianxian turned her head, tenderly laughed and said, first go to the free immortal sea and defeat Xiao Chou, then think about fighting with Brother Xiang. Brother Xiang had fought with that little guy and put him to bed for a month. Chen Xiang was dragged by Xue Xianxian up the stairs and came to the top floor, while those youths all stood dumbfounded at their place. Free immortal sees Xiao Chou. He was one terrifying guy. Moreover, he was also from ancient Herculean family. After disciples of other mainlands arrived here, they immediately sought powerful martial artists of the Qinwu mainland to challenge. They all wanted to establish their sex prestige by showing their strength, but many of them had fallen under Xiao Chou's hands. Several of them have been injured by him. Chen Xiang had won against Xiao Chou, moreover, put Xiao Chou in bed for 1 month. This speaks for his strength itself. Thinking of this point, these youths dejectedly left. Lo, Sister Menger. Chen Xiang mischievously smiled and said, while still embracing Xue Xianxian, which made Li Menger snort. Good, you are all right, this little girl has been jumping up and down for you, Lu Menger said. Chen Xiang smiled. She turned out to be so anxious. Dean told me that Sister Menger has also been running around to extreme martial sect once in a while. Xue Xianxian SN. 1. GG. Read, that's because I had asked the teacher to ask about you. Xue Xianxian didn't know about Chen Xiang and Lu Menger, which made them feel a little guilty. But they didn't know how to face this, so they can only let nature take its course. Lu Menger knew that the couple had the chance to meet after a long time. They were certainly going to get intimate, so Lu Menger left them alone on her own accord. Seeing Lu Menger leave, Chen Xiang and Xue Xianxian both grinned. Xue Xianxian flushed red as she narrowed her eyes and said, Brother Xiang, when I and younger sister Yulan were training, you have sensed so many things. You are truly formidable. Chen Xiang stuck his tongue out and started sucking Xue Xianxian's tongue. The two would occasionally chat while kissing and sucking each other's tongue, which made the peeking Lu Menger secretly scold Chen Xiang and Xue Xianxian. They were unexpectedly having such fun. Teacher, does it feel good to do such things? Do husband and wife act like this? Ling Yulan suddenly asked, which scared the wits out of Lu Menger. She lowered her head to look down and realized that a white-haired beauty was peeking too. Lu Menger was shocked as she realized that she was too engrossed from watching Chen Xiang and Xue Xianxian. Her face flushed red to her ears. Moreover, she had also been discovered by Ling Yulan. I don't know. Seeing them laughing so happily, it must feel very good. Lu Menger replied with a flushed face. Ling Yulan was oblivious to this, so she was very curious and wanted to give it a try. Lu Menger didn't dare to peek again, but at this time Ling Yulan once again said in a low voice, Their mouths are pressed against each other as if they are sucking each other. What's up with them? Are they cultivating? Lu Menger nibbled her lips, but also quietly peeked through the seam of the door. She too had French-kissed Chen Xiang. Once she had kissed him, and now she was watching others kiss him, which made her heart itch. This kind of thought also made her suddenly feel extremely shy. She secretly envied Ling Yulan, who didn't understand the matters between a man and a woman. Brother is very bad. He is actually touching Sister Xianxian's breasts. Very shameful, Ling Yulan said in a low voice. Lu Menjie silently glanced at her. She didn't expect Ling Yulan to actually know that touching there was something immoral. This little rascal! Lu Menjie spat on the ground. Her bosom too had been seen by Chen Xiang, and also had been groped by him once. Chen Xiang, after groping Lu Menjie and by Ziqian, realized the pleasure in that wonderful place. Now with his own wife, he was lightly rubbing her bosom while passionately kissing her. Originally Xue Xianxian was feeling a little shy, but thinking that Chen Xiang was her husband, and they had known each other well since childhood, she didn't object it. After all, they were husband and wife, which allowed Chen Xiang to enjoy her forbidden and wonderful bosom. Chen Xiang touched and kissed Xue Xianxian for a long time. Only when he was satisfied did he let go of Xue Xianxian. Xue Xianxian's face was a little rosy, watching this graceful and otherworldly little fairy have such an appearance. Chen Xiang lasciviously smiled. "Brother Xiang, you finally grew up." Xue Xianxian tenderly laughed and said, then leaned on Chen Xiang's arms while recalling the happy things from their childhood. Chen Xiang caressed her silky hair and sighed. "Yes, the more we grow up, the more worried we get. However, in order for us to be happy together in the future, we now have to do everything we can." Xue Xianxian nodded her head. "That's why I cannot be worse than Brother Xiang. I am now very powerful. Yulan is also here, Brother Xiang, you should also meet with her. She also missed you very much." Chen Xiang, with a laughing look in his eyes, glanced at the door's seam and grinned. Lu Menjie, upon seeing this, had her face completely red from shame. As for Ling Yulan, she was oblivious to the whole matter and felt nothing. Ling Yulan opened the door and with a flash came to Chen Xiang's side. "Brother, I also want to try licking your tongue. Do you and Sister Xianxian are like this whenever you meet?" Harvest. Finger Fox 6/30th chapter, only one today. No, I have not missed anything, the chapter started from here. The author skipped any conversion regarding previous speech of Yulan. Chen Xiang and the two girls seldom had the chance to be together. This time they romped playfully like three naughty children. They had made a mess out of this little room. Although Lu Menjie criticized them, she still didn't stop them. She just examined those spirit patterns given by Chen Xiang. "Brother, when are you going to spar with me? I want to know how powerful I am now." Ling Yulan swayed Chen Xiang's hands as she acted all cute and spoiled. "Please spar with me." Chen Xiang knew Ling Yulan was a militant-type girl, but he thought, if he and Ling Yulan fought, he would not be able to completely play out his strength, thereby, he would lose against his sister. Although he would just lose against his own younger sister, Ling Yulan would certainly not be happy, and this kind of fight would then turn meaningless. Xue Xianxian also joined on the fun and said with a grin, "Brother Xiang, I also want to fight with you. Hadn't we decided this in our childhood, that if one day we became powerful martial artists, we must heartily have a bout?" The corner of Chen Xiang's eyes twitched. He bitterly smiled and said, "Two elder sisters, please spare me. To be honest, if I fight with you, I'll definitely lose." "How will that be possible? Last time I heard, when you fought with beast martial sex Yen Yanran, you were merciless. Moreover, your means were also very sinister." Ling Yulan hugged her chest with both hands as she intently stared at Chen Xiang. She was a little unhappy because Chen Xiang refused to comply with her wish to fight. Chen Xiang shook his head and sighed. "How can you say that I am sinister? I didn't even hit her face. Just from this, it is evident that I have been lenient and only used light means. I am someone who has shown for females and will not use a heavy hand on them. If I fight with you, I cannot completely unleash my strength. If I went all out, I might ruin you, which will break my heart. Let's ask the teacher to watch, so that if something happens she could prevent it." Xue Xianxian had a naughty smile hanging on her face. Evidently, she very much wanted to thrash Chen Xiang during the bout. Chen Xiang was dumbfounded. He discovered that due to Xue Xianxian being with Ling Yulan for a long time, she too had turned violent. Ling Yulan was naturally a violent girl, Only in front of someone she is closed with would she act a little cute. Otherwise, by virtue of her wild character, she would definitely provoke no small amount of trouble. It is still not possible. If in a million chance something unexpected happened, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Chen Xiang shook his head. No matter what, under any circumstances, he was not going to fight the two. It gave him a kind of a bad feeling, especially after seeing the naughty smile on Ling Yulan and Xue Xianxian's face. Lu Menjie indeed understood Chen Xiang. She came to his rescue. If you two want to fight, I can take you to those little guys from the other mainlands, but you are not allowed to lose. Elder sister Lu, seriously? I will definitely not lose. Quickly take me. Ling Yulan excitedly said. Chen Xiang knew someone was going to have a bad luck. Xue Xianxian rolled her eyes, chuckled and said, Yulan, how about we joust for a spouse? Whoever won against us can marry us. Upon hearing this, Chen Xiang turned pale from shock. He hurriedly said, How can you do this? You are my wife. Seeing Chen Xiang so anxious, Xue Xianxian giggled and said, Of course I know, I'm helping Yulan find her husband. This is a good opportunity as powerful martial artists from the other mainland are here. That won't do, I am Yulan's brother, her marriage must not be so hasty. Chen Xiang resolutely said. Ling Yulan smiled and said, I think this method is good, let's give it a try. Lu Menjie walked over and smacked Xue Xianxian and Ling Yulan's head, and criticized them. Don't talk nonsense. Don't you want to fight others? There are many people who have come to the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire as guests. I only let you come here so that you can check up on this brat. Because of that, I have even postponed my meeting with him. Xue Xianxian naughtily stuck her tongue out, smiled and said, I know, the teacher is a big beauty and famous even overseas. As soon as those guys came to Qinwu mainland, they first visited the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire as guests. Didn't they came just to see teacher? Little girl, you have got a lot of lip. Lu Menjie pinched Xue Xianxian's cheeks, then said to Chen Xiang, Over time people had started to gather for the Hero A.S. Assembly which is going to be held here in the extreme martial sect. These two had just broken through, that's why their hands were itchy. Chen Xiang nodded his head. He was a little disappointed that he didn't get the chance to get intimate with Lu Menjie. Lu Menjie left Tianmen City with the two girls. Chen Xiang too returned to the extreme martial sect. Although there were many people in the extreme martial sect, it was less than the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire, as those deans from overseas went straight to the Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire after coming to the Qinwu mainland. A beautiful refiner is really different, no matter where it is, they are the most popular. Su Meiyao laughed. Isn't a beautiful alchemist not so different? For example, Sister Meiyao, hey. Chen Xiang returned to the extreme Dan King courtyard and encountered Wu Qianqian. They chatted for a while. He inquired about Yun Xiaodao and the others, and he came to know that they are doing intense and brutal training. They were all in King Martial Courtyard. Wu Qianqian was also very busy. Not only she had to take some time out in order to refine various dawn to improve her alchemy skills, she also had to keep up with training laid out by the King Martial Courtyard. That was why she didn't chat too long with Chen Xiang and left soon after. She is progressing very quickly. In the future, she will definitely become one of Stoney's HI+ing girl. Long Xue said. Last time she had imitated Chen Xiang's voice and played with Wu Qianqian. The extreme Dan King courtyard was shrouded in a silence all day. Chen Xiang was already accustomed to it. However, he was now missing Elder Dan. The azure profound fruit had already matured. Fantastic, there are so many azure profound fruit. Under the dark curtain of the night, Chen Xiang sat on the roof, watching the various herbs and flowers in the herb garden exuding a beautiful radiance. Watching the herb garden, he was dazzled, he was in a very happy mood. From the azure profound tree, he had harvested 40 fruits, and the 2 trees that were planted recently only bore 20 fruits. He knew that after these they bore fruits a few more times, they would also be able to bear 40 fruit. Now he had altogether harvested 60 azure profound fruits. In other words, he could refine 60 sets of building foundation dawn. Every time he refined one set, it would be 4 building foundation dan, altogether it was 240 dawn. So many building foundation dan would drive any sect mad, no matter how big they are. Later whoever messed with father, the father will smash him using the building foundation dawn. Chen Xiang started laughing as he shouted. Quickly grow some 5 elements true elemental dan herbs. This dan has a very big advantage for you now. With the help of them you can cross the true martial realm. Even if you are in extreme state, it will still be greatly useful to you. Su Meiyao said. He still had a set of 5 elements true elemental dan herbs. Elder Dan had helped him in collecting most of them. He had been wanting to thank Elder Dan, but there was still no sign of her. The 5-color profound fruit can grow into a tree, while the 5-leaf GRAS can produce GRAS seeds, and the 5-color lotus could also be used to sprout lotus seeds. As for the colorless lingji, it gave Chen Xiang a headache. It's simple, cut it into pieces and bury it under the soil, then you simply have to water it down using the dragon's saliva, and before you know it they will grow. Su Meiyao explained. In regards to this, she was very experienced. Chen Xiang didn't expect that the colorless lingji was actually planted in such a simple way. He was elated. He began planting the 5 elements true elemental dan herbs. Reclusive Alchemy Training, First Part. Reclusive Alchemy Training, First Part. Fingerfox. Hi guys, just a heads up, the mana is changed to spiritual energy. All the subsequent changes have been made to the older chapters. As for the reason, I was told HI plus 2 and mana were totally mismatching. After a long thinking, I thought of using spiritual energy. Sorry for the inconvenience. 730th Chapter. Chen Xiang concentrated on planting his spirit herbs, but just 2 days later, Wu Keiming came looking for him and told him that someone wanted to challenge him. However, he flatly refused it. In the future, if such kind of guys come looking for me, tell them that if they want to fight with me, first go and defeat Free Immortal Seas Xiao Chou and Beast Martial Sex Yen Yenran, they can come to me after that. Father can refine several sets of dan in the time it takes to fight with 1 round. Such a waste of time. Since his return from the 100,000 Devil Mountains, many martial artists had come forward to challenge him. There were some who came to challenge him in martial arts, and some in alchemy. However, he turned a complete blind eye them, and just concentrated on planting his spirit herbs. He was not just planting the herbs, he was cultivating too. After tending to the spirit herbs during the day, he would then begin cultivating the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise to enhance his true Chi, at the same time cultivate the 9-turn dragon God technique to cultivate his divine soul. And at night he would also congeal golden dragon saliva. If there is still some time he would train some martial techniques or refine some building foundation dawn. In other words, his schedule was completely packed. Little dragon, since my divine soul is a little bigger, will the 72 transformation and heavenly dragon seal be a little stronger? Chen Xiang asked. Last time he had seen Long Shui cast the heavenly dragon, which was much stronger compared to his. 72 transformations mainly focuses on the utilization of spiritual energy. When your spiritual energy has reached a certain degree, as well as when you are a little more proficient in its utilization, you can transform into some stronger creatures. Now you should be able to transform into cat, dog, pig and fish-like creatures. If you want to transform into a tiger, you are still lacking. You think about what you want to transform into. If you don't understand something, you can ask me. Long Shui replied. When he thought of practicing transforming into a pig and dog-like animals, Chen Xiang was secretly unhappy in his heart. Little girl, are you joking with me? Chen Xiang grunted. What's the benefit in transforming into a pig? After I transformed into a bird, I'll have the ability to fly. Transforming into a fish will help me hide in water. Transforming into a gopher will allow me to dig holes. What's the fuck? King use in transforming into a pig or a dog? Long Shui giggled and said, "You are not stupid. After transforming into a bird, you can peep on people taking a bath. As a fish you can peep from inside the water. You thought quite well." Dead girl, this is your words, not mine. If you hadn't told me, I would not have known that turning into a fish has such advantages? Chen Xiang scoffingly said. I'm not joking with you. 72 transformation has always been to learn and apply pragmatically. Learn whatever you can transform. Not only you can transform into small animals or something, you can also transform into chair, table, trees and among other things. Wait till your spiritual energy has reached a certain degree, then I'll teach you. Long Shui said. Chen Xiang was now training to transform into a fish. Since he had used the spiritual energy to create an invisible alchemical furnace, his utilization of spiritual energy has advanced a step. It had become very easy to learn to transform into other things. In a short while, he was soon able to transform into a carp and swim in the water. When you go to Lotus Island, you can transform into a fish and sneak deep into the sea to search for crystal mines. The Emperor Crystal can't be wasted. Su Meiyao smiled and said. After acquiring the Emperor Crystal, Chen Xiang had not used it since then. Thinking of the countless crystal mines and seas under Lotus Island, he couldn't wait to leave and start looking. He only wants top-grade crystal stones, others he didn't even care. In this period, Chen Xiang felt very enriched. Although he had no small amount of pressure bearing down on his shoulders, however, these days Paas said very well. This month he had learned to transform into other animals. Some didn't even have a practical use, but it made him a little proficient in the 72 transformation. 5 set of herbs. If successful, these are 55 elements true elemental Dan. Chen Xiang was also a little surprised because the 5 elements true elemental Dan herbs grew very quickly, much faster than he had previously imagined. Of course, one of the reasons was that his progress in strength increased the ripening speed of Golden Dragon saliva by a lot. Inside the private room, Chen Xiang took out the brilliant flame dragon furnace. This 1 month, he had been refining the building foundation Dawn and 100 Beasts Dan, using the refining simulation technique in the brilliant flame dragon furnace. Because the timing in the brilliant flame dragon furnace was different from that of illusionary brilliant furnace, he had to be familiar with the brilliant flame dragon furnace, only then could he make accurate calculations. From the experience that he gained using the illusionary brilliant furnace, he very easily became proficient in using the refining simulation technique along with the brilliant flame dragon furnace. The illusionary brilliant furnace was created using the spiritual energy, and he had always used his divine sense to check it. As for the brilliant flame dragon furnace, he didn't need to do anything extra. He could naturally spend his complete divine sense to carry out the calculations. In order to lay down a better foundation for the refining simulation technique, no matter whatever Dan Chen Xiang was refining, he would use the refining simulation technique. It was what Su Meiyao suggested him to do because refining higher-level Dawn were even more difficult. Even if he used the refining simulation technique, he could very well fail. Now that he has a good foundation, it would have a great advantage in the future. With the help of brilliant flame dragon furnace, he could speed up the refining process. However, if he slowed down a little, his rate of success would be higher, especially when refining an unfamiliar Dan like the 5 elements true elemental Dan. He had no room for mistakes. Although he could grow a lot of herbs, if he didn't succeed, it would still be painful. He still clearly remembered the entire process of refining 5 elements true elemental Dan which he had refined during the alchemy tournament. As he already succeeded once, the next batch of refining would be a lot easier. The calculations for the subsequent refining was also a lot easier, unlike the last time when he had an excruciating headache. After half a day, Chun Xiang was successful in 2 consecutive batches. Since he was not in any compet. 1. Tian now, his speed was also very slow, moreover, he also took a long break in between. At this moment, he had even more in-depth experience in refining the 5 elements true elemental Dan. The 5 elements true elemental Dan was but a high-level Dan and very difficult to refine, yet he had not failed in refining it, not even once. After all, every Dan he had refined in the past, he had always failed many times before finally succeeding, such that every time he suffered a loss, a large number of herbs was lost. And now, as he had mastered the basics of refining simulation technique, he could avoid these losses. He estimated that in the future, after a couple of failures, he would be able to successfully refine new dawn. However, if he wanted to refine higher-level dawn in the future, the herbs required would all be incredibly precious. 25 elements true elemental Dan. I'm afraid that even if I swallow all of them, I may not be able to step into the 7th level of true martial realm. Later it is going to be increasingly difficult to advance further. Chun Xiang was lying on the extreme Dan King Courtyard's lawn and looked at the blue sky. The scenery inside the extreme martial mysterious realm was always very pretty. It would always clear his mind, which would allow him to do other things calmly. Bang bang bang! Someone was knocking at the door. Upon hearing the knocks, Chun Xiang knew it was Gu Dongchen. He sluggishly stood up, stretched his tired body before opening the door. What's the matter? Chun Xiang gave a yawn. The recent refining of dawn had left him a little tired. Among all the disciples in the entire extreme martial sect, only he would dare to act like this to his dean. He didn't have an ounce of courtesy. Let's talk inside. Gu Dongchen directly went inside and Chun Xiang led him to a private room. Chun Xiang casually got a glass of drinking water for Gu Dongchen and said, "If you came here to ask me to fight or compete in alchemy, then forget it, I'm not free. Don't worry, after the Herculean family's little monster became your SHI+ELD, lesser and lesser people came looking for you. However, that little monster's reputation is now greater than before. That little rascal is clamoring that you had beaten him before by luck. He said he was in his best condition. In short, he is coming up with various reasons to deny the fact that you won." Gu Dongchen shook his head and said, "This is nothing. What is even more infuriating is that many guys actually believed him." Chun Xiang didn't agree, smiled and said, "Little featherhead, are you goading me to come out? Forget about it, I am now preparing everything for the upcoming catastrophe. Only the winner will have the last laugh. Now, if by chance I get seriously injured and my cultivation came to a standstill, then it will be very troublesome." Reclusive Alchemy Training, Final Part. Reclusive Alchemy Training, Final Part. Fingerfox 8th 30th chapter of the month. Expect to have more chapters waiting for edit. Enjoy. Gu Dongchen smiled and said, "You are right. Anyway, I came to tell you that we just returned from the 100,000 Devil Mountains. You were right, there was indeed a rift from which many small evil demons were coming to our world." "You mean to say that the 100,000 Devil Mountains large formation is already useless?" Chun Xiang didn't expect that it would lose its role so soon. "Yes, we had to guard outside for a long time. That rift is already quite large, but seemingly it is releasing some strange power that is blocking the intrusion of some bigger evil demons from demon domain. However, the number of small evil demons has already reached a scary number. We spent a couple of days killing them, but we were still not able to kill all of them." A hopeless look covered Gu Dongchen's face. "That's why we have returned. We are waiting for the powerful experts from the other mainlands to arrive, then we can join forces to seal that little rift, or else the 100,000 Devil Mountain will be packed with these small evil demons." "Are those evil demons still staying inside the Devil Mountain?" Aren't they coming out? Chen Xiang recalled the scene when he too had encountered such a large group of evil demons. He secretly despised Gu Dongchen and the others' strength. Much to his dismay, they had spent a few days killing those evil demons, yet they were still not able to finish them. That day, with just one move by Ziqian, had killed the entire evil demons. A frown appeared on Gu Dongchen's forehead. Temporarily they can't come out. As they had just arrived, they seem to be seriously weakened. They are absorbing the devil qi inside the 100,000 devil mountains to recover their strength. That's why we have to quickly close that rift. Even the deans who were standing at the peak of the mortal world were not able to completely kill those evil demons after a few days of killing. Apparently, the evil demons were quite large in number. Moreover, they seemed to be inexhaustible. Kill one, and another one would come right away. Chen Xiang pursed his lips as a smile appeared on his face. Little Featherhead, did you come here to tell me this? Gu Dongchen smiled, somewhat embarrassed. Singly said, but of course, however, I hope that young martial uncle can help us with a small matter. You should know that there are many powerful deans who are coming from overseas to attend the Hero A.'s assembly. They are also bringing their own favorite disciples. They are not only coming to attend the Hero A.'s assembly, but they are also going to show off their prowess. Chen Xiang sneered. These guys seem to have a very good relation with Xiao Ziliang. It is very likely that when Xiao Ziliang traveled to the other mainland, he made some friends. They all have been instigated by Xiao Ziliang such that their disciples are going to challenge our extreme martial sect's disciples. The majority of our extreme martial sect's disciples are going to fight. Although we will win some and lose some, the number of winnings should be greater. Chen Xiang pursed his lips and said, Do you want me to fight to increase your prestige a little? Gu Dongchen laughed cunningly and said, No, of course not, it is to win glory for the entire extreme martial sect. Chen Xiang gave a spat. Little Featherhead, if I were you, I'll decide not to fight. Now the time is hard pressed, and you still want prestige. If I ask the teacher to come out, these arrogant deans will one by one return to their mainlands. We will see how they'll keep their arrogant ses. Ask Huang Jintian to come out? That would be a complete chaos. Thinking of this, Gu Dongchen was hit with as. Hi plus ver. Seeing Gu Dongchen's distressed appearance, Chen Xiang, as their martial uncle, of course, wanted to save his martial nephew's prestige, but he didn't want to fight. Little Featherhead, do you want to show off? It's simple. Aren't those guys from overseas not short on building foundation dawn? Chen Xiang said with a smile as his eyes twinkled with a hint of a sly gleam. On the other hand, Gu Dongchen upon seeing this shuddered from fear. He knew he was going to be having a bad luck. Gu Dongchen nodded his head. Since ancient times, there seemed to be a shortage of building foundation dawn in the mortal martial world. In my hand, I have 80 pieces of building foundation dawn. I will sell all of them to you. Later you can take them out in front of them to show off. Wouldn't this will be very cool? Chen Xiang smiled and said, Indeed it would be very cool. Gu Dongchen, thinking of this, also felt elated. However, the problem was that he needed to buy these building foundation dawn. He couldn't understand why Chen Xiang had so many building foundation dawn, as though they were peanuts. All of a sudden, he had a few dozen dawn. Usually even a few dawn together would be extremely rare. Young martial uncle, you are lending them all to me so that I can show off, right? With this we can show to others the heritage of our extreme martial sect. After that I will give them back to you. Gu Dongchen smiled and said. He certainly didn't want to buy them because Chen Xiang was definitely going to swindle him off. Chen Xiang smiled and shook his head. You can take them on rent, 1,000,000 crystal stones for a day. Gu Dongchen secretly cursed. As far as he was concerned, 1,000,000 crystal stones for him was simply nothing, but he was a very stingy person. No matter how much it was, he would feel a heartache. Little Featherhead, for the extreme martial sect's glory, can't you sacrifice even a little bit? Chen Xiang said with a smile. All right, I'll take them. Gu Dongchen clenched his teeth and firmly decided that next time he would not look for Chen Xiang for any cooperation. After the young martial uncle had discovered that he was a local tyrant, he would think of a variety of ways to swindle him off his crystal stones. Chen Xiang took out a rather large jade box that had a large pile of dawn inside which were exuding a dazzling azure radiance. The 80 building foundation dawn were looking a lot like S.H.I. plus New York beans. Gu Dongchen was tremendously shocked, though he had prepared himself well. So many building foundation dawn were after all very rare. Worth it. As Gu Dongchen's eyes shone upon seeing those dazzling building foundation dawn, which appeared to be no different than emerald, he praised. He immediately closed the lid and left quickly. After Gu Dongchen left, Chen Xiang smiled and said, "A million crystal stones for a day. If I hid for a year or so, every day I will rake in 1,000,000 crystal stones. It is totally worth it." If Gu Dongchen knew Chen Xiang had this kind of idea, he would rather die than make this trade. "Little rascal, you are really bad. You are his young martial uncle." Su Meiyao tenderly laughed and said, "What should I be afraid of? As his elder, of course, I have to discipline him. Let him have a lifetime lesson. Who asked him to love being in the limelight?" Chen Xiang retorted with a smile, then carried on with his work. 10 days went by, and Chen Xiang remained in his private room. He knew Wu Qianqian had arrived. He speculated that it was Gu Dongchen who had asked Wu Qianqian to look for him. However, he intentionally dodged them. He would get more crystal stones with the Pas, Sage of Time. In a blink, 2 months went by. Chen Xiang took care of the herbs every day. Although his herb garden was small, the spirit herbs growing there were incredibly precious, such as white jade lotus seed, which was the main ingredient for some restorative dawn, the 9 sun flames tree, the azure profound tree, and likes were all very rare and precious good. As long as an alchemist saw this, he would be scared to death. He would remain here until his death. Chen Xiang discovered a very surprising thing, and that was the soil, after absorbing the golden dragon saliva for so long, had already changed. As long as any herbs were grown in this soil, the speed of their growth would be very fast. Moreover, it would absorb a large amount of spirit qi on its own. I had never thought that I would be able to create a spirit field, Chen Xiang excitedly said. He had now planted many 5 elements true elemental dan herbs, a total of 10 or so set. Out of the 12 that he had refined, he failed twice, which gave him a little heartache, but he was still satisfied. Now I have 155 elements true elemental dan. Chen Xiang looked at the exquisite dawn and proudly smiled. His days were spent taking care of his spirit herbs, refining dawn, cultivating or just chatting with Long Shui, Su Meiyao, and Bai Yu. He very comfortably said these calm days. As far as he was concerned, it could be regarded as a kind of relaxation. I should collect the bill. Chen Xiang mischievously smiled. As he opened the gates of Extreme Dan King Courtyard, he found Gu Dongchen with a glum face standing at the entrance. Only Chen Xiang would dare to be so cruel to the Extreme Martial Sect's dean. Young martial uncle, I realized my mistake. Gu Dongchen's handsome face was filled with bitterness. He obviously realized that Chen Xiang was intentionally punies. Hi plus ing him. Letter of Challenge. Letter of Challenge Fingerfox 9/30th chapter of this month. One more coming after this. Enjoy. Chen Xiang took the box of building foundation dawn and a storage pouch with 60 million crystal stones, checked them out before nodding his head in satisfaction. Little Featherhead, you have suffered a loss. Next time you will definitely remember this. But think about it, isn't it better than letting you go to the teacher? Chen Xiang smiled and said. He wanted to inform Huang Jintian Gu Dongchen was hit with a shudder. Gu Dongchen took Chen Xiang's building foundation dawn to show off. He was indeed feeling very happy. Those deans from overseas were all also feeling extremely envious. However, His happiness never came again because he would look for Chen Xiang daily, but Chen Xiang did not respond and intentionally stalled for time. Gu Dongchen nodded his head and said, "Right, I am the dean of the extreme martial sect. I have crossed 8 nirvana tribulation. This was originally my wealth which I can show off, but to avoid this, those guys cooperated with each other, and used their powerful disciples to fight my extreme martial sect's excellent disciples in turns to tire them out. I was too focused on being the victor and ignored this point. Now you get it. If I were you, I will go and challenge them. Although at that time they will certainly resort to various means to refuse the challenge, you just can say that they are refusing you because they are afraid of you." Gu Dongchen lost tens of millions of crystal stones, which woke up his mind. After he left, he did what Chen Xiang had suggested, and challenged those deans, but not one person dared to accept his challenge. This made him feel a lot better. "Chen Xiang, you have been really busy these days." As Wu Qianqian came out from next room and saw Chen Xiang lying on the roof, she smiled and said, "Everyone is like this." Chen Xiang replied with a smile. Wu Qianqian also jumped to the roof, took out a letter and handed it to Chen Xiang. "All these days I have been looking for you, but we never ran into each other. It is really too difficult to meet you now. The free immortal sea's little monster have given you a letter of challenge." "Oh? Why did he look for you?" Chen Xiang took the letter but didn't open it. Wu Qianqian's face flushed red and tenderly snorted. "This little rascal thought that you and I are in a relations. Hi+P. Moreover, he also knew that I also live in the extreme Dan King courtyard. So, he kept pestering me continuously to pass on his letter of challenge to you." Chen Xiang smiled and said, "So it was like this, he has wronged you. Right, when you were mistaken as my lover, do you feel aggrieved?" Wu Qianqian was startled. She didn't expect that Chen Xiang would ask such a question. She tenderly spat, her face turned redder. She jumped off the roof and quickly left the extreme Dan King courtyard. "This girl is too easy to get. As long as you speak of it, I dare say that you will be able to have a good time with her in bed tonight." Long Shui said, "Smelly dragon, you have finally shown your true colors. You are one lascivious dragon. In the future, I need to be on guard against you." Chen Xiang didn't expect that Long Shui would suddenly say something like this. "This is because of the memory inheritance from my father. I am a very pure and innocent dragon. Beautiful and lovely." Long Shui said with a pout, "Don't talk nonsense, you are a lascivious dragon." While laughing, Chen Xiang opened the challenge letter. The content of the letter rendered him flabbergasted. Xiao Chao's handwriting was extremely ugly, unrecognizable. It seemed to be a scribbling of a 2-year-old child. On the challenge letter, one ugly turtle was drawn. The turtle had withdrawn its head inside the turtle SAELL, and on the turtle SAELL 2 words were written, Chen Xiang. Not only was the handwriting very bad, there were also so many mistakes. "Chen Xiang, you are afraid to fight with me. You are a cowardly turtle who only know how to hide." This was what was written in a blank SPAC. Chen Xiang shook his head and smiled. Just from his scribbling, this idiot could make others' will to fight dissipate. "Are you going to fight or not? Herculean family's little devil is a good partner to train yourself. Last time you used the Ice Spirit Devil aura, and that was the only reason why you were able to win. It does not count. Moreover, you are now in the 6th level of the true martial realm." Su Meiyao said. Chen Xiang pondered over it for a bit. Although Xiao Chou was a little monster, his strength was nothing to be trifled with. From Gu Dongchen, he came to know that many powerful martial artists from overseas had suffered defeat under Xiao Chou's hand. Soon his name would resound in the entire mortal martial world. Bai Yu said, "Using the Ice Spirit Devil aura to defeat him is nothing indeed. I think it's best if you have a spar with him, but first, you must enter the 7th level of the true martial realm." Don't you have 155 elements true elemental Dan? Su Meiyao and Long Shui were also in favor of Bai Yuyu's suggestion. They too wanted Chen Xiang to step into the 7th level of the true martial realm before fighting again with Xiao Chou. Last time when Chen Xiang fought with Xiao Chou, if not for him using the Ice Spirit Devil Aura, Xiao Chou might very well be the final victor. Although possessing the Ice Spirit Devil Aura was also part of his strength, he felt a little apologetic. He too very much wanted to utilize absolute strength to defeat his opponent, only then could he feel extremely refreshed. It is not too good to eat so many 5 elements true elemental Dan all at once. Moreover, I am still not proficient enough in controlling my strength after I have stepped into the 6th level of the true martial realm. Chen Xiang hesitated a bit and said, "There's nothing to fear, you can go and ask your teacher for his help. I'm sure that he knows a good method for you to enter the 7th level of the true martial realm that won't leave any hidden injuries," Bai Yuyu said. Chen Xiang was hit with a shudder. Go to Huang Jintian to get his help in training, wouldn't that be simply asking to get tortured? Although it was a very good way to cultivate. Little rascal, think about your teacher. He is an elder yet he is all alone staying there, how pitiful it is. You are his apprentice, moreover, you and he are so close, should you not take care of him? Su Meiyao tenderly laughed and said. It was easy for her to say because she was not the one getting tortured. Chen Xiang bitterly smiled and said, "You can speak, 'cause you don't have to actually experience it yourself. But forget it, I don't have anything to fear, what's the worst that could happen, anyway I am not going to die. I can treat it as a brutal training." For the first time Chen Xiang felt admiration for himself. He actually dared to do this kind of thing, and that too on his own. "Young martial uncle, please repeat what had you just said. You want to go where?" When Gu Dongchen learned the reason Chen Xiang came to him, he suspected that he had heard him wrong. Wu Keiming too stood aghast. "I want to go to the teacher to help me cultivate because I want to prepare the fight against Xiao Chou." Chen Xiang smiled and said. Although he had a smile hung on his face, in his heart he was feeling jittery. "Young martial uncle, are you perhaps sick? Are you all right?" Gu Dongchen sucked a cold lump of air as he asked. "I am completely all right, I'm perfectly sane. Take me to the forbidden area." Chen Xiang spread out his hands and said. Gu Dongchen and Wu Keiming thought that Chen Xiang was ASOCHIST. He unexpectedly wanted to get tortured on his own. However, they also felt admiration for Chen Xiang. Along the way, Chen Xiang inquired about some stuff. He wanted to know what had occurred these past few days. What made him surprised was that, at the Qinwu mainland, valiant martial artists from 60 mainlands had actually arrived. Among them were over 100 Nirvana realm martial artists, who were all Dean-level kind of figures. However, the majority of them had only crossed the 6th Nirvana tribulation. Although there were some who had crossed the 7th tribulation, they were scarce in number. And someone like Gu Dongchen, who had crossed 8 tribulations, were even fewer. That was why among those deans, Gu Dongchen could be considered as extremely powerful. It was also the very reason why the Hero Assembly was going to be held at the extreme martial sect. After the rift was blocked, the Hero Assembly would be held. Even those evil demons would serve as a target for many disciples to hunt during the Hero Assembly. Dragon Force. Dragon Force Finger Fox 30th chapter of this month. Final chapter of today, rest for tomorrow. Enjoy! Chen Xiang jumped into the deep pit, while Wu Keiming and Gu Dongchen soon left. They gave Chen Xiang a privilege, such that in the future, he would be free to access this region. Now he was not subjected to any restrictions as he jumped down into the pit. He was now free to fly, and no power was going to be blocking him. Huang Jintian was roasting a very large cow ham when Chen Xiang suddenly fell down and smashed into the fire. When Huang Jintian was about to flip out, He noticed that it was his own apprentice. He could not help but exclaim in surprise. "Am I dreaming?" Huang Jintian, upon seeing the dirty face of Chen Xiang, suddenly burst into his maniac laughter. "I must be dreaming." Chen Xiang grabbed the cow ham and took a few bites off of it, forcefully smiled and said, "Teacher, you are not dreaming, your apprentice came to play with you." Huang Jintian caressed Chen Xiang's head, startled, and once again started laughing maniacally. "Little rascal, it is truly rare. Not to mention you, even your senior brother, who had ascended to the heavenly realm, is afraid to death of me. You unexpectedly had the courage to come down here. Say, why did you come looking for me?" Much to Chen Xiang's surprise, Huang Jintian had refrained himself from torturing him. Chen Xiang swallowed the meat in his mouth, smiled and said, "Teacher, didn't you ask me to come down often? That's why I came." "I had indeed said so, but I thought it went through one ear and out the other. I have said the same thing to your senior brother's apprentices, but they only came down when they have something very important." "Little rascal, you are very thoughtful." Huang Jintian nodded his head. In the depths of those bright eyes flashed a sliver of a naughty smile, which made Chen Xiang's whole body be draped in cold sweat. "Teacher, to tell you the truth, I wanted to quickly elevate my strength. As you can see, I'm currently in the 6th level of the true martial realm. Though it can be considered quick, I want it to be a little quicker. I have some dawn with me. Relying on them, I can step into the 7th level of the true martial realm, but I'm afraid that my foundation will be unstable. That's why I came down." Chen Xiang honestly explained. "Brat, your progress is indeed very quick. Right? Have you learned the suppressing devil divine exercise?" Huang Jintian at this time remembered that he had sent Chen Xiang to learn the suppressing devil divine exercise. Chen Xiang nodded his head. "Talk to me about it. Suppressing devil divine exercise is not so easy to learn." Huang Jintian had only heard of it, but he had never learned it. Chen Xiang told the details to Huang Jintian, which made Huang Jintian sigh with emotions again and again. He still didn't understand what made the suppressing devil divine exercise so mystical. The learning process was not too difficult. No wonder in the ancient records of extreme martial sect, it was said that only martial artists with the heavenly sun fire spirit could learn the exercise, so it was true. At the beginning Huang Jintian didn't understand why, but now he understood. If one wanted to learn the suppressing Devi divine exercise, he must use the heavenly sunfire to burn the chanting formula, which would be branded into his soul when memorizing the chanting formula. Afterwards, he would unconsciously begin to learn the suppressing devil divine exercise. This kind of bizarre divine exercise made Huang Jintian greatly widen his horizons. Little rascal, now many experts have gathered at the Chenwu mainland. These guys are not lacking in experience or knowledge. It is highly likely that some of them might be the martial artists who wanted to SN. ATC. My Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. They are quite knowledgeable regarding this kind of true Chi. That's why, after you go out, it's better if you use the universe true Chi as little as possible. Huang Jintian said in a very solemn tone. If he was found out, it would be very dangerous. The Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise was the supreme exercise of the Imperial Dragon Clan. Even the experts of the heavenly realm very much yearned for it, not to mention the martial artists of mortal world. Chen Xiang nodded his head. Huang Jintian laughed and said, "Which Dan do you have to improve your cultivation? Let me take a look. I need to check in order for me to draft a training program for you." As Chen Xiang took out the 5 elements true elemental dawn, with one glance Huang Jintian recognized them. He used to be an influential figure during his era. He had traveled to different mainlands, have traveled far and wide and seen a great deal. But he had never seen so many 5 elements true element Dan. He knew that his apprentice was also a powerful alchemist, but he didn't expect him to be so abnormal. "Little rascal, I am pretty sure that you will ascend much earlier than your senior brother." Looking at those exquisite and crystal-clear 5 elements true elemental dawn, Huang Jintian said with emotion. Qin Xiang smiled and said, "This is all thanks to teacher's guidance. I want to quickly elevate my strength. There is a little monster of the Herculean family outside clamoring to challenge me." Huang Jintian smiled. "Herculean family's little monster? Hey, these arrogant guys indeed need to be taught a lesson. When your teacher traveled here and there, I have taught a lesson to many Herculean family members." Next, Huang Jintian developed a training program for Qin Xiang. 155 elements true elemental dawn were divided into 3 batches which would be taken once every 10 days. And during daytime he must undergo a kind of torturous training, while during the night he was scheduled to cultivate true qi. And also every day he must spar with Huang Jintian for 1 hour. What troubled Qin Xiang was that even after entering the 6th level of the true martial realm, he was still not able to congeal dragon force. After cultivating the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, the dragon force was the strongest form of true qi. He had inquired Long Shui, only to hear that he was still not proficient enough. When Qin Xiang first came here, he had seen Huang Jintian cast dragon force. At that time it had almost scared him, however. No matter how much he tried to congeal it in accordance with the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, he was still unable to congeal it. He had told the same thing to Huang Jintian, however. Huang Jintian too replied that he was not proficient enough. "I think after you have entered the 7th level of the true martial realm, you might be able to congeal it. This kind of strength is very strong, however. Powerful martial artists can easily recognize it. You must not use it in front of many people," Huang Jintian said. Only those who cultivated the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise could congeal the dragon force. Long Shui too knew that the dragon force was nothing trivial. So, whenever she lent her strength to Qin Xiang, she had never used the dragon force, and only used her true qi instead. She was a dragon. Naturally she inherently possessed the dragon force. The torturous training began. In order to improve his strength, Qin Xiang could only bear it down. The huge pit began to echo with Qin Xiang's heartbreaking screams. Using his unique method, Huang Jintian tempered each and every part of Qin Xiang's body. As a result, not only did his body become stronger, his true qi too became more pure. His foundation was even more solid. This was also the reason why the 3 Taio's of the extreme martial sect were so powerful. Qin Xiang thought that the time was passing very slowly. Every day the kind of brutal pain he had to undergo was extremely terrifying, but after the brutal training, he would have a lot of harvest. It was also the reason why he persevered. Now Qin Xiang had completely eaten all the 155 elements true elemental dawn. The reason why Qin Xiang could quickly improve his strength using dawn without any hesitation was all accredited to Huang Jintian's help. Unknowingly, 50 true element grains were added to his dantian. Qin Xiang had stepped into the 7th level of the true martial realm, but only a little part of those beast forms was bright. Imagining the countless true element grains required to completely illuminate the 5 reverend beast forms, Qin Xiang was having a hard time calculating when would he be able to reach that stage. As envisioned by Huang Jintian, in just 1 month Qin Xiang had entered the 7th level of the true martial realm, and now he was at the most crucial moment. He was trying to congeal the dragon force. To congeal the dragon force, not only must his true qi be vigorous, he was also required to comprehend and perceive the abstruse principles of Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, which often needed a flash of inspiration. Suddenly, a frown appeared on Qin Xiang's glabella. He only felt that a half of his true qi had suddenly been drawn out, while on his palm a rice grain-sized speck of white light appeared. This was the dragon force which was exuding an incredibly powerful strength. The aura that was surging out one after another from the white speck was raging the water inside the pool up and down. Seeing this, Chen Xiang was extremely excited. Fight again with Xiao Chou, first part. Fight again with Xiao Chou, first part. Finger Fox 11/30th chapter of this month. With half of his true qi, he could only congeal a speck of dragon force. Chen Xiang now came to realize why in the past he was unable to congeal dragon force even after so many tries. It was all because his true qi was still not vigorous enough. Although it was such a small amount of dragon force, its might was altogether completely different. If one day he could release and use dragon force in a steady stream just like the universe true qi, he would have an exceedingly powerful strength in his hand. It was also the reason why so many people wanted to seize the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. A speck, that's all. However, if you simulate this speck with the strength in your palm, you will be able to smack an 8th level true martial realm guy to death, even a 9th level too. Huang Jintian laughed and said. He was feeling extremely happy because his apprentice accompanied him. Even though he knew that Chen Xiang was afraid of coming down, he, as before, helped Chen Xiang improve his strength, though his means were extremely brutal. You have now learned how to utilize dragon force. In the future, once your true qi becomes vigorous, then you too can utilize it just like your teacher. However now, as far as you are concerned, it is not extremely useful to you. You might as well use some powerful martial technique with all your strength. Chen Xiang nodded his head, then he said farewell to Huang Jintian and on his own flew out. In the past, he never had the chance to say farewell and was kicked out. Chen Xiang just flew out of the forbidden area. As he traced his steps back to the extreme Dan King courtyard, he met Gu Dongchen on the road. Gu Dongchen, looking at Chen Xiang's tattered clothes, could imagine what kind of torture Chen Xiang had to undergo there. Young martial uncle, I admire you. Gu Dongchen spoke this from the depths of his heart. If it was him in Chen Xiang's place, he would not dare to arbitrarily go and seek Huang Jintian. Chen Xiang laughed and said, But of course, otherwise how can I be your martial uncle? Little Featherhead, quickly go and tell that Herculean family's little monster that father will fight him after 3 days. You can prepare a good place to show how I deal with him. He heartily smiled and swaggered his way into the extreme Dan King courtyard. Gu Dongchen was secretly excited. Herculean families, Xiao Chou had defeated many genius martial artists from overseas. If Chen Xiang defeated Xiao Chou, all of his fame would be SN. Head by Chen Xiang, and Chen Xiang only had to fight one battle, while Xiao Chou had to fight many. Humph, every day he remained low-key and now he can easily get so much prestige. Gu Dongchen cursed. After Chen Xiang came out from the forbidden area, his strength had improved a lot. He was very confident in defeating Xiao Chou, and that was also why he dared to say such aggressive and lofty word. Gu Dongchen didn't know Chen Xiang had advanced to what level, but he was very much looking forward to it. After returning, Chen Xiang took a bath right away. When he came out, he happened to encounter Wu Qianqian. He chatted with Wu Qianqian for a while, and came to know what happened this past few months. Xue Xianxian, and Ling Yulan too, had earned a great deal of fame. All of this because of their ident. 1. Taya's girls, and also defeating many formidable genius martial artists who think highly of themselves. However, the one they had defeated all came from overseas. They had refused Xiao Chou's challenge many times. Qianqian, that Herculean family's little monster, is no longer pestering you, right? Chen Xiang asked. Since he had accepted the challenge, many people were now antic. 1p, aiding their fight. He has not. This is all thanks to you. A smile appeared on Wu Qianqian's face. In regards to Chen Xiang's strength, she naturally was not worried. Last time, she had witnessed Chen Xiang pummeled Xiao Chou unconscious. Hey, you are also not weak. You can also learn to be like Xian and Yulan and challenge other guys. This is a very good opportunity. Chen Xiang rubbed his chin as he watched Wu Qianqian's beautiful face. Wu Qianqian shook her head, smiled and said, I am just an alchemist, fighting and all. If it can be avoided, then why not? Elder Dan has prepared many cultivation materials for me. Moreover, there is still the alchemy part. When she talked about alchemy, Chen Xiang took out some herbs and gave them to Wu Qianqian. These are 100 set of true elemental Dan herbs. Take them. When you are going to try refining the building foundation Dan, I will give you some herbs again. The building foundation Dan herbs. Wu Qianqian was stupefied. She didn't expect that Chen Xiang would actually be so generous, so casually giving her building foundation Dan herbs. She knew some of Chen Xiang's secrets in the extreme Dan King courtyard, like the azure profound tree planted by Chen Xiang. In the beginning, she had often come to watch the flowers bloom. However, after Elder Dan had laid the restrictive barrier, she could not come anymore. However, Chen Xiang still trusted her. Wu Qianqian was a poor and strong girl. Yet, to Chen Xiang, she was a happy-go-lucky girl. Moreover, she was the only person with whom he could have a conversation within the extreme Dan King courtyard. Subsequently, Chen Xiang had also given Wu Qianqian many tips regarding alchemy, and even guided her in refining a few batches of true elemental dawn, such that Wu Qianqian was able to refine 5 dawn with 1 set of herbs. In the field of alchemy, Wu Qianqian could be regarded as extremely talented, not to mention that she had a fire spirit. In the future, she would surely become one powerful alchemist. In the dark curtain of the night, Chen Xiang laid on the roof, looking at the stars in the sky. The scene in the sky was exactly the same as the outside, it was just that it was not in same space. This was the miraculous thing about the mysterious realm. He closed his eyes and recalled the sparring with Huang Jintian past this month. Although he would lose every time, and suffered serious injuries, he had benefited a lot during the course of the fight. It also stimulated him to release his strongest strength. Little rascal Wu Qianqian seems to be taking a bath. Do you want to take a look? Long Shui naughtily laughed and said, You smelly dragon, weren't you firmly against the idea of me taking such kind of actions? Are you planning to frame me? Chen Xiang rejected Long Shui's suggestion. That is one extremely beautiful girl. Are you sure you don't want to take a look? Long Shui asked again. Forget it, I have seen even more beautiful figures. So it is not that tempting to me. Chen Xiang didn't seem to care. And brat. Su Meiyao tenderly snorted. She knew that Chen Xiang was talking about her and Bai Yuyu. When they first encountered Chen Xiang, they were completely naked. Bai Yuyu snorted and said, Never mention this again. She had told this many times, but how could Chen Xiang forget a such thing? From time to time, he would still mention it. Although Chen Xiang's mouth said so, in the end he was still a man. Moreover, he was also a little lascivious. He could not wait to turn into a bird and flew over to peek at the top beauty of the extreme martial sect whilst she was taking a bath. Every man's mind would more or less harbor some evil thoughts, the majority of which could restrain themselves. Some just fantasize about it, and nothing more, while there were a few who could not restrain themselves and act according to their desire. So they would become evil, and create some crime and bring calamity. In a flash 2 days were over. Chen Xiang had also taken a good rest. He walked out of the extreme Dan King courtyard and followed Gu Dongchen to the extreme martial sect square. On the way, Gu Dongchen exhorted him multiple times that he must not wreck the square. Although during their fight many Nirvana realm martial artists would lay down a barrier, he was still worried that the scene from the Danxiang Tower would be repeated here. F.U.C.K. The Herculean family's little monster came to challenge me. Why must we fight here? Chen Xiang doubtfully asked. Our extreme martial sect is the biggest sect in the Qinwu mainland. Naturally, we should act a little bly. Not to mention, the majority of the people are gathered here. Gu Dongchen replied. A lot of people had arrived at the extreme martial sect. In addition to the disciples of the extreme martial sect, there were disciples of the different sects from Chunwu mainland and other mainlands, among which many had been defeated by Xiao Chou. They wanted to witness the strength of the rumored strongest young martial artist of the extreme martial sect. Fight again with Xiao Chou, final part. Fight again with Xiao Chou, final part. Fingerfox 12/30th chapter of this month. Just as Chun Xiang appeared, the entire square quieted down. Today he was meticulously dressed. He looked extremely handsome and stunning. He was overflowing with heroic spirit. Chun Xiang's handsome and angular face was extremely clear. His eyes were glistening in an unyielding aura as bright as the stars and as deep as the starry sky. His lips stretched to reveal a calm smile. It had a unique charm on its own. His entire body was wrapped in black tights which seemed to be emphasizing his robust body, revealing a dense masculine spirit, and overflowing with charisma. Some of the girls in the square secretly gasped in admiration. Watching a man with such an extraordinary bearing appear, those martial artists from overseas were discussing in a low voice. They had all seen Chun Xiang's portrait, but they have not seen him personally. Now sensing the extraordinary temperament from Chun Xiang, all of them acknowledged that the portrait and the actual person were worlds apart, like heaven and earth. Many among the audience knew that Chun Xiang had once defeated Xiao Chou, but a false information was disseminated by Xiao Chou and the Free Immortal See that the outcome of the battle was hanging by a thread, and both parties were on par with each other. However, Chun Xiang mainly with a stroke of luck won the fight. What made Chun Xiang dumbfounded, even more, was that, according to the Free Immortal See, that day Xiao Chou was actually seriously injured and despite his injuries, he still fought with Chun Xiang. Many people came to believe this information, especially the people who had been defeated by Xiao Chou. They all knew Chun Xiang's cultivation was lower than Xiao Chou, so they believed without a shadow of a doubt. Among the martial artists who had lost against Xiao Chou, there were many whose cultivation was higher than Xiao Chou, nevertheless they were still defeated. That was why they chose to believe these rumors. On one side of the square stood Xiao Ziliang with a smile hanging on his face. This time he and an elder from the Free Immortal See, as well as Gu Dongchen and Wu Keiming were going to lay out the barrier. Even if the entire square is wrecked, this time it had nothing to do with him. Moreover, this time, he had extreme confidence in Xiao Chou. This time he was not going to lose, there would be no second time. Chun Xiang, you cowardly turtle, after hiding for so long you finally came out. Xiao Chou shouted in a young and tender voice. Looking at the little boy in front of him, Chun Xiang secretly chuckled. A sentence of Long Shui appeared in his mind. He is one immature brat, pummel him to the ground. Last time I was seriously injured and you also used underhanded tricks to defeat me. That's why the previous fight cannot be counted. Xiao Chou yelled. The spectators were watching the whole drama unfold very calmly. Although it was just a fight between two true martial realm martial artists, the Nirvana realm deans who had come far and wide across the seas were still very much in antic. 1p. Asian. After all, it was a duel between two peak young martial experts of the Chunwu mainland, and Xiao Chou had defeated many of their outstanding disciples again and again. Because Xiao Chou was from the ancient Herculean family, they did not feel disgraced. After all, they were all normal humans. They knew that there were some among the humankind who could win against the Herculean family, but for them, it was difficult to believe. So they were seriously watching the contest. Chun Xiang smiled and said, "Little brat, lying is bad. Father is a couple of 100 years old, you are not even worthy to be my grandson." Xiao Chou hated it the most when others called him a little brat, let alone Chun Xiang, the guy who had defeated him. "Haha, if you were my child, I will not despise you. Quickly call me daddy." Chun Xiang laughed and said. His words made the entire square burst into laughter. Xiao Chou was boiling in anger. His whole body was trembling. Yet he actually suppressed his anger, which made Chun Xiang feel surprised. Last time he discovered that the Herculean family was easy to anger, which was a magnificent move. On one side of the square, Shui Xianxian with a white muslin hanging on her face said in a low voice, "Teacher, last time did Brother Xiang really used some trick to defeat this little monster?" Shui Xianxian and Ling Yulan both had arrived to watch the fight. They had personally seen several fights of Xiao Chou. Although they were strong, they believed that they could hold their ground against Xiao Chou. However, if they wanted to win, they had no such confidence. Lu Menjie pondered for a bit and said, "You can't say that it was a trick. What Chen Xiang had used was a kind of powerful martial technique which can cause a damage to the spirit. Now Xiao Chou appeared to be so confident, I think he has a way to overcome it." In the previous battle, Chen Xiang was indeed far weaker than Xiao Chou, that's why Xiao Chou remained unconvinced of his defeat. Regarding that fight, Chen Xiang also didn't believe he had won. He felt that he had not won in the martial art because at that time he was weaker than Xiao Chou and had to rely on Ice Spirit Devil Aura to defeat him. That's why, this time he had made up for it, otherwise, he would not have accepted the challenge. If the barrier was still not completely laid out, perhaps Xiao Chou had already charged at Chen Xiang. Xiao Chou was still as before. His strength had not much progressed. While Chen Xiang had advanced from 5th level to 7th level of the true martial realm. He was a lot stronger than before. Not to mention, he had gone to the forbidden area and had undergone the brutal training of Huang Jintian. Xiao Chou also was not aware that Chen Xiang was suddenly a lot stronger. Who was going to believe that someone, in just a few months, could continuously advance 2 levels? It was totally unheard of. This time, Chen Xiang could not use the universe true qi, as there were too many Nirvana realm martial artists among the audience. If they recognized that peculiar true qi, they might guess that he was Huang Jintian's apprentice. Naturally, Xiao Ziliang was completely aware of the truth, however. He dared not reveal this. He knew the consequences he would face if he did so. Moreover, he guessed that Chen Xiang too dare not use his 5 elements universe true qi, which was also one of the reasons he invited so many Nirvana realm martial artists to spectate this fight. The barrier had been completely laid out. 4 Nirvana realm martial artists spread their strength and completely enveloped the center of the square to create one transparent barrier enveloping the center and even the ground too, to protect the tiles which were the most vulnerable to damage. "Start!" Gu Dongchen loudly gave the signal for battle. He too had no idea how powerful Chen Xiang was. He just knew that Chen Xiang had undergone AHEL Lish training this past month. What was the cause of concern for him was that, now, Chen Xiang was absolutely unable to use the universe true qi. Otherwise, the secret would be easily exposed. He now realized that it was quite unfavorable for Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang was a normal human while Xiao Chou was from Herculean family. His blood was flowing with a mystical power which had strengthened his body. He also had divine power inherently, and along with the cultivation, his strength would only increase if not decrease. Which was also the reason why, at the same level, Xiao Chou was unrivaled in the world. Which also made him even more arrogant. Once the fight began, the first to attack was Xiao Chou. He was boiling in anger, but unlike before, his mind was not in a mess because of his anger. He was now channeling his anger into power. Noticing this kind of progress, Chen Xiang held him in admiration. Xiao Chou like a lightning bolt leaped. His tiny fist suddenly surged out with a shockwave as if it could shake the SPAC. He punched out, and because of the impact force generated from the jump, the strength behind his fist was even stronger. Chen Xiang clenched his fist and punched directly towards Xiao Chou's tiny fist, which was carrying a shockwave. The fist met with the fist. Last time Chen Xiang fought with Xiao Chou just like this. Xiao Chou's punch was carrying his innate power, and through some kind of martial technique, he had turned this power violent, because of which it produced a terrifying shockwave, while Chen Xiang's punch was burning in flames. His entire fist seemed to be burning red, that scalding hot aura was spouting steaming flames. As both punches collided with each other, two different types of power collided with each other. Much to everyone's dismay, both shares of power fused into one before bursting out with an explosion. The resulting strength exploded and spread to all direction, giving rise to a fierce gale, which collided with the invisible barrier. With the collision of their punches, the curtain of this fight officially opened. Awakening of Strength. Awakening of Strength. Fingerfox 13/30th chapter of the month. Chen Xiang had only utilized fire attribute True Qi. He did not use that peculiar invisible True Qi, which would undoubtedly weaken him a lot. Yet, Chen Xiang was still able to thwart Xiao Chao's punch. It appeared that the two were neck and neck with each other. Last time, even when Chen Xiang had utilized the invisible True Qi, he could only weaken a large part of Xiao Chao's strength. But now, his fire attribute True Qi was surprisingly equally powerful as Xiao Chao's, which made it difficult for Xiao Chou to understand. Many formidable martial artists had seen the previous fights of Chen Xiang, and now it was crystal clear that Chen Xiang had made great progress, which took them aback. Xiao Chou tightly clenched his tiny fist, above which some smoke appeared to be rising. The scalding hot True Qi had forcefully invaded his arm. Fortunately, he had already learned how to deal with this situation. "How did you become so strong?" Xiao Chou let out a shout as he once again sent a punch directly towards Chen Xiang's face. Chen Xiang's current speed was extremely fast. When he was training with Huang Jintian focused on helping Chen Xiang improve his speed, which allowed him to become more agile. With such speed, he was able to evade the enemy's powerful yet quick attack. Xiao Chou too was very confident in his speed. In the past, because 7th-level true martial realm martial artists were not able to predict that kind of frightening speed, they were defeated in one move. Xiao Chou grinded his teeth. The moment when his ruthless strike was going to land upon Chen Xiang's eyes, he only punched through the thin air. He had felt that his fist touched Chen Xiang's eyelashes, yet Chen Xiang still dodged it. After Chen Xiang leaned his head sideways, he mischievously smiled as he smacked a palm directly towards Xiao Chao's tiny face. As he smacked his palm seemed to be flash. Hi+ing in numerous electric aura. It was an extremely violent lightning True Qi. However, it only flashed once before his big palm ruthlessly slapped Xiao Chao's tiny face. Moreover, it was accompanied by a deafening roar, as if a thunderbolt from the sky struck there. Chen Xiang had utilized sufficient strength on the shocking heaven palm. Moreover, it was also carrying a vigorous lightning power. Such strength was enough to topple mountains. Watching Chen Xiang so casually cast such violent palm technique, everyone was aghast. Xiao Chou was mistaken. Chen Xiang was not only faster than before, he was stronger too, and attacked even more ruthlessly. On his tender white cheek appeared a red palm imprint. A drop of blood also trickled down from the corner of his mouth. Xiao Chou was boiling in anger. His chest was as if a volcano was ready to erupt. Even he had to burn himself up to defeat Chen Xiang. He would not hesitate to. Chen Xiang had directly slapped his face, which was the worst action to hurt someone's self-esteem. Normally in any fight, very few people would hit the other's face, most would go for the head. Seemingly Chen Xiang had intentionally done so. "Chen Xiang, I'm gonna kill you!" Xiao Chou growled in anger. His young and tender voice became Hoa. R.S.E. as a duck, his pair of eyes turned red in anger, blue veins were bulging on his forehead, and his muscles swelled, which gave him a grim appearance. Now he was like an angry wild beast. Suddenly, Xiao Chao's thin body trembled as a white qi fiercely exploded from his body. Xiao Chou once again let out a furious roar. The square suddenly started shaking. The anger had allowed Xiao Chou to tap into the hidden strength in his body, the frightening potential of the ancient Herculean family. Even the deans who were watching this were incomparably shocked. this kind of frightening potential made them feel threatened. If Xiao Chou grew up, for sure he would become one extremely powerful guy. It would be absolutely difficult to find a rival in the same level. Fuck, he sure is as formidable as the old madman had stated. Is this the awakening of power of the Herculean family? Chen Xiang was unexpectedly laughing. Anyone could see that because of his anger Xiao Chou was erupting with a fearsome power than the usual, while Chen Xiang not only had no ounce of tension, on the contrary he was laughing. Is he laughing? Many people thought that he had some loose screw. Previously Huang Jintian was boasting to Chen Xiang that he had taught lessons to many martial artists of Herculean family. Furthermore, he also suggested to Chen Xiang that if he wanted to truly anger a Herculean family member, the quickest was to hit them on the face ruthlessly, and that too in front of many people. However, this would make the Herculean family member enter a crazed state, in which their strength would soar a couple more times, which would be extremely frightening. Little rascal, quickly slap him. It's a very good opportunity. Didn't your mad teacher said that after they are furious, they would erupt with a stronger power? However, while their power is increasing they will also come to a standstill, which is their weak point. You must seize this opportunity. Long Shui hastily shouted. She very much abhorred the Herculean family. Chen Xiang smiled whilst he rushed forward like a lightning bolt. On his pair of arms appeared a layer of lightning net. Everyone was shocked by the terrifying power erupting from Xiao Chou. But once again a deafening explosion rang as Xiao Chou's cheek was once again ruthlessly slapped by Chen Xiang. The strength behind this slap was not any lower than the previous slap. However, once this slap landed upon Xiao Chou's cheek, as Xiao Chou was about to fly, he was once again pulled back as if there was some kind of force pulling him back to Chen Xiang, which was once again followed by another slap, and once again a glaring electric aura flashed. This time, Chen Xiang's violent and continuous shocking heaven palm was carrying lighting. Under Chen Xiang's onslaught, Xiao Chou fell into a peculiar state in which he was unable to control his body. He could only helplessly watch as his body was constantly ravaged by Chen Xiang. This was precisely the weak point of Herculean family. Even Xiao Chou was completely oblivious to this. Furthermore, it was only useful for those members of Herculean family who had never experienced the awakening of strength. A white qi constantly emerged from Xiao Chou's body. This was the aura overflowing due to the increase in his strength. It was rather powerful, but he could not fight back. Xiao Chou's both cheeks had been slapped with Armageddon-like might. Everyone could not help but feel a burning sensation on their own cheeks, let alone Xiao Chou. Witnessing this, Xiao Ziliang was secretly grinding his teeth. He had realized that Chen Xiang had intentionally angered Xiao Chou, and then the moment his strength was awakened, he had been fervently attacked. Brother Xiang is really ruthless. Xue Xianxian slightly frowned. She had rarely watched Chen Xiang's fights. Now that she got to watch how overbearing Chen Xiang was, she realized why Chen Xiang had refused to fight her before. This is so gratifying. Brother is too good, I must have a bout with brother sometime. Ling Yulan said in excitement. This made Xue Xianxian and Lu Menjie speechless. Even after witnessing how strong Chen Xiang was, she unexpectedly wanted to fight with Chen Xiang. Witnessing Chen Xiang's wild onslaught on Xiao Chou's cheeks, everyone gasped in unison. In particular, those guys who had once been defeated by Xiao Chou. Before, they all believed that no one could win against Xiao Chou, but now Chen Xiang had subverted their cognition. There was no shred of a doubt that Chen Xiang was extremely strong. But no one could exactly see his cultivation. Some believed that he was in 9th level of the true martial realm, but he was just 20 or so years old, which made it difficult for them to accept. It was well known that Chen Xiang was in 5th or 6th level of true martial realm, which was rather easier to accept. However, under such cultivation, Xiao Chou was unable to fight back even after being a member of the Herculean family. This little monster can really take a beating. Chen Xiang slightly frowned. Suddenly, both his arms were wrapped in some lava-like stuff. Subsequently, a scalding hot chi erupted from his body, which continued to impact the barrier. At this moment, Chen Xiang's pair of arms were as if they had been casted from molten iron. They appeared to be extremely terrifying. Even more scary was that after Chen Xiang's shocking heaven palm landed upon Xiao Chua's cheek, not only had it erupted with a flash of lightning, the subsequent impact was no different than a meteorite crash which gave rise to an intense heat wave one after another. All of Chen Xiang's strike landed directly upon Xiao Chua's cheek. Nevertheless, Xiao Chou still continued to roar. Apparently, Xiao Chua's defense was very tough. Thunderbolt Strike. Thunderbolt Strike translated by Ash, edited by Fingerfox, 14/30th chapter of this month. From the very beginning, this fight was completely led by Chen Xiang, and his subsequent onslaught made everyone lose their breath. Is this the strongest young martial artist of the Qinwu mainland? That's completely crazy. This guy is a madman. He is not human. A youth from the other mainland murmured. And I even wanted to challenge him before. If he had hit me that much, I'm afraid I would have keeled over already. A man said with a completely horrified look. Chen Xiang's thunderbolt like a fence made every young martial artist from overseas scalp tingle. They have already realized the conclusion of their fight with Chen Xiang. And of course, Xiao Chou had also shocked them. Much to everyone's surprise, under such a violent onslaught, he could still utter such heartbreaking screams. If it was someone else, perhaps not even an ounce of a dreg would have left. How about I lend you my power? Get rid of this little rascal with the strongest strength. Long Shui anxiously said. She was itching to get in action. No need, I can do it myself. A frown appeared on Chen Xiang's gallabelly because Xiao Chua's strength was still soaring. If he could not finish the fight before Xiao Chua's awakening was finished, he would enter an arduous battle. Sensing the power emanating from Xiao Chou gradually weakening, Chen Xiang knew Xiao Chua's awakening was about to be completed. He hardened his heart and let out a thunderous shout. Soon after, an intense aura overflowed from his body. Powerful waves of energy whistled to every direction. Much to everyone's surprise, the strength emanating from Chen Xiang was no weaker than Xiao Chua's. Watching such energy erupting from Chen Xiang, everyone freaked out. Chen Xiang was already formidable, yet he was still able to rouse his strength. This scared the hell out of everybody. Chen Xiang was not rousing his strength, but casting some kind of a powerful martial technique. Suddenly the sky turned dark as it was densely covered in dark clouds. The clouds swell as a tyrannical spirit Qi gathered above the square. The friction between the clouds gave birth to lightning one after another. Suddenly the square was shrouded in a layer of darkness which was accompanied by the flashes of lightning. The onlooking Deans could not help but have a scare. Last time, in the Fragrance City, he also came up with such move which had rendered Xiao Chou unconscious. Not to mention, that move had ravaged the square there. Young martial uncle, I'm not going to get any compensation, please have mercy. Gu Dongchen, upon witnessing the billowing dark clouds in the sky, groaned in his heart. Lu Menjie grabbed Xiao Xianxian and Ling Yulan. Apparently, she was preparing to jump. Last time, she had witnessed Chen Xiang's earth-shaking strike from the sky. She cannot forget that scene. In particular, that majestic white dragon whilst it charged towards the ground, it made her feel as if the world was about to end. Everyone who had witnessed that scene was all preparing to jump. There were many such people in the square because that move had nearly buried them. They didn't want to get buried a second time. Obviously, Chen Xiang was not going to be casting the Furious Dragon's retribution. Currently, he was in no condition to cast that move. He didn't have enough spiritual energy, and also he would have to rely on Long Xue's power. He was casting the Thunderbolt Cut. It was a move from the Dragon Slayer's 7 Killing Cut. It was a very powerful move. Last time, using this move coupled with the Azure Dragon slaughtering Devil Blade, as well as Long Xue's strength, Chen Xiang had killed a 9th-level true martial realm, the Lu family elder. For the first time he was going to cast this move without the Azure Dragon slaughtering Devil Blade, but instead using his arm as a blade. He rarely did such because it required time to gather lightning. Furthermore, he also needed to draw support from the lightning force and let the lightning channel through his body and finally transform it into power and release it outside of his body. Xiao Ziliang could not wait to rush over and stop Chen Xiang, but he knew Gu Dongchen would definitely not let him. He could only helplessly watch Chen Xiang as he once again cast an earth-shattering move. What gave him a slight pleasure was that this time it would be the extreme martial sex square which was going to be destroyed, and he did not need to compensate for this. Chen Xiang, you are so dead. Ha ha! Xiao Chao's voice suddenly reverberated. A wild light flashed from his tiny fist as a terrifying power surged out. Xiao Chao's awakening of strength was complete. Earth-shaking waves of power were released from his body, making everyone choke. Chen Xiang immediately brandished his palm to counterattack Xiao Chao's oncoming fist. Lightning and fire combined with the shocking heaven palm clashed with the Herculean divine fist after the awakening of Xiao Chao's strength. The resulting explosion from the clash gave off the impression that SPAC was about to collapse. The subsequent powerful recoil sent Chen Xiang as well as Xiao Chou both into flying, while a tremor ran through the ground from the shockwave produced from a moment ago. Xiao Chou spewed a mouthful of blood. He had suffered a couple thousands of shocking heaven palms. He was not lightly injured, and now he was once again subjected to such a powerful rebound. He had been holding back the blood somehow, but now because of further injuries he couldn't hold back and spewed that writhing blood. Chen Xiang also felt sweet in his throat, but he forcefully swallowed the surging blood. Bang! Suddenly, in the sky a few dozen thunder simultaneously rang, tens of lightning like nets suddenly came down. Xiao Chou was startled upon witnessing this. It was the power of nature, he, of course, had to avoid it. If his body was struck by it, the consequence could be disastrous. Lightning was naturally very fast, which rendered anyone unable to resist. When everyone saw lightning coming down, they all subconsciously thought that it would strike Xiao Chou because this lightning was produced by Chen Xiang's move. But much to everyone's surprise, every bit of lightning was gathered on Chen Xiang's body. In that moment, everyone was stupefied. Someone was struck by so many lightning, it would be a wonder if he would not vanish into a puff of smoke. In that very moment, Lu Menger and the others' mind went blank. They all believed that Chen Xiang was finished. The instant that countless lightning fell on Chen Xiang's body, everyone including Xiao Chou felt that time had stopped. They all thought that Chen Xiang was finished. They believed that Chen Xiang was unable to control those bolts of lightning. But after that moment, everyone was once again shocked by Chen Xiang. Much to everyone's dismay, Chen Xiang was all right. His entire body was wrapped in wild and dazzling lightning. As he raised his arm high towards the sky, hideous blue veins started bulging on his forehead one after another. He let out a roar and suddenly his arm swelled, as if a big river was about to flow out of his arm. Thunderbolt cut. It was as fierce as a thunderbolt. Just as everyone reacted to the moment Chen Xiang was hacked by lightning, Chen Xiang had used his arm as a blade and hacked towards the faraway Xiao Chou. A wild lightning immediately surged out from his arm and transformed into a powerful qi that was accompanied by a dragon's furious roar as it charged towards Xiao Chou. This was nature's lightning power whose might was boundless. After Chen Xiang mobilized the abstruse principle of dragon martial technique, it was transformed into a powerful qi which made it, even more, stronger. In just a blink of an eye, an irresistible powerful qi flashed in a dazzling electric aura which crashed into Xiao Chou and was soon followed by blood-curdling shrieks of Xiao Chou. The heaven and the earth once again calmed down. Xiao Chou flew out and fell on the ground. And on the ground, a deep gully appeared from the impact of the thunderbolt cut which further crashed into the barrier. The barrier was almost smashed into nothing. Chen Xiang slightly sighed. He was a little tired, but his breathing was still smooth. Evidently, he still had strength to spare. Obviously, he had only mobilized the Azure Dragon True Qi and the Vermilion Bird True Qi. There was still 3 kinds of attribute True Qi left unused. This was also the reason why Xiao Ziliang and the others were feeling surprised. This time Xiao Chou had not fainted. He was still able to move. He very difficultly raised his head and looked at Chen Xiang with a look of admiration in his eyes. He had lost twice in the hands of Chen Xiang. He was truly impressed by Chen Xiang's strength. I admit defeat, Xiao Chou said with difficulty. It was not because he was injured, but he had never thought that he would say such a thing. Peace Talks. Peace Talks, a Ballistic Bunny 15/30th chapter of this month. As Xiao Chou threw in the towel, Chen Xiang slightly smiled and left. Xiao Chou was lying on the ground facing the sky. He was seriously injured. Although he was able to awaken his strength, it had been simply shattered under the Chen Xiang's thunderbolt cut. Chen Xiang took out a little bit of HEL spirit GRAS and shoved it into Xiao Chou's tiny little mouth. Anyone with good eyesight among the audience could easily discern that it was HELL spirit GRAS. This made many burst into exclamation one by one, admiring Chen Xiang's behavior. He even gave this kind of sacred herb to his opponent. This sort of magnanimity made many Nirvana realm martial artists secretly nod in appreciation. Soon after swallowing down the HEL spirit GRAS, Xiao Chou recovered enough of his strength for him to stand up. Humph! Xiao Chou coldly snorted, but he soon followed up with a word of grat. 1. Toot in low voice, thank you. In the end, you are still just a little monster. You cannot beat me. Chen Xiang laughed while he pressed his arm on Xiao Chou's little head. This made Xiao Chou clench his fist and stare at Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang, I want a wars. HI+PU as my teacher. Xiao Chou shouted suddenly, which made the laughing Chen Xiang suddenly stop, as though he had suddenly eaten a fly. Meanwhile Xiao Ziliang, who was Rus. HI+ing towards Xiao Chou, suddenly halted his footsteps with his mouth agape. Everyone was once again dumbfounded. Much to everyone's surprise, Xiao Chou wanted to take Chen Xiang as his teacher. What kind of request was this? Anyone could see that after Xiao Chou had undergone the awakening, he was almost as strong as Chen Xiang. He could be said to be at the same level as Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang's strength was far from enough to become his teacher. After blankly staring for a while, Xue Xianxian started giggling. Little guy, later you should call me Mrs. Does that mean he's going to call me Martial Aunt? Leng Yulan also felt it was a little interesting. Furthermore, her eyes shone with an intelligent gleam. Lu Menger knew what she was thinking. She was definitely thinking of taking Xiao Chou often for spars. Gu Dongchen and Wu Kaming both started secretly deliberating. If Xiao Chou became Chen Xiang's student, then they would be his peers. He would become their junior brother. They were somewhat dumbfounded. No one had expected that things would develop like this. Xiao Chou suddenly knelt down and knocked a few times on the ground. Furthermore, his each knock was very heavy that drew a large crater on the ground. Teacher! Xiao Chou directly shouted, as he completely disregarded whether Chen Xiang was going to agree or not. Chen Xiang swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This was going to his second apprentice, whose strength was comparable to his. Aren't you from the free immortal sea? Now you are wars. HI+ping me as your teacher, isn't this a little inappropriate? Chen Xiang, looking at Xiao Ziliang, said. No. Uncle Xiao just promised me that he will arrange battle for me. I only fought for the free immortal sea, I never actually entered the free immortal sea. Xiao Chou replied. At this moment, he was looking at Chen Xiang without any ounce of hatred in his eyes. Xiao Chou's attitude took a big turn which made it Chen Xiang difficult to accept for a while. However, He remembered Huang Jintian say that, once the Herculean family guy firmly believed in you, that day would be your lucky day. Chen Xiang's eyes turned bright as he slightly smiled and said, "Okay then. Are you going to join the extreme martial sect? Same sect as your teachers." Gu Dongchen was secretly elated. Another monstrous talent was going to be added to the extreme martial sect, and it was one from the Herculean family. Xiao Ziliang had a bitter look on his face. Xiao Chou was a rare good seedling whom he had found after searching for a long time. Although he had not officially entered the free immortal sea, Xiao Ziliang was confident that one day he could hoodwink Xiao Chou into joining his sect. But Xiao Ziliang had never expected that Xiao Chou would be seized by Chen Xiang. "Not a problem. Teacher, please once again accept your apprentice's salute." While speaking, Xiao Chou immediately knelt down once again and fiercely kowtowed. The entire square shook for a bit. At this time, many woke up from their stupor and burst into exclamations. Such a scene was rare. In the near future, such a master and apprentice could roam freely in the entire mortal world. Wu Keiming walked over with a big grin on his face. "Little guy, you are still seriously injured. Follow me to recuperate." "Come, I will show you the extreme martial sect." Chen Xiang said, "It's okay, follow his arrangement, he is an elder there. If you want to be my apprentice, you need to listen to him. You cannot act like before." Xiao Chou was somewhat reluctant but still nodded his head before he leaving with Wu Keiming. The fight was over. Everyone left with a variety of moods. Today's battle had been completely etched into their memories. Although it was just a fight between true martial realm martial artists, it still brought them a great deal of surprise. Especially Chen Xiang, they firmly etched this name into their hearts. "Xiao Ziliang, how about you return to the extreme martial sect and sit down for a while with us?" Gu Dongchen smiled and said. Xiao Ziliang coldly snorted but still followed Gu Dongchen to the extreme martial mysterious realm. Chen Xiang also followed behind them. Ling Yulan also wanted to chase after them, but in the end she left with Lu Menger. She knew that in the future she could play with Xiao Chou. Inside the extreme martial sect, Xiao Ziliang drank a glass of wine and heaved a long sigh. It seemed as if he suddenly become much older. "I used to fight the old madman, and now I am similarly fighting with his apprentice." Xiao Ziliang sighed mournfully. At this moment, he could not hate Chen Xiang because he knew there were still many more things left to deal with, such as the approaching catastrophe. Gu Dongchen smiled and asked, "Do you want to meet him?" A look of horror appeared on Xiao Ziliang's face. No. Useless, I often go look for him," Chen Xiang said in a despising tone. Naturally, he was unafraid of Xiao Ziliang, especially after he got to see how much Xiao Ziliang dreaded Huang Jintian. Apparently, Xiao Ziliang seemed to have encountered Huang Jintian's insane methods. "No wonder you are so abnormal." Xiao Ziliang's heart leaped. He had quite a bit of understanding in regards to Huang Jintian. Naturally, he was aware of how Huang Jintian would teach his apprentice. Gu Dongchen smiled and asked, "Xiao Ziliang, will you continue to work with us?" "Humph, in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm, didn't you kill a few of my free immortal seas Nirvana realm martial artists? You have made me lose too much, what do you have to say about that?" Xiao Ziliang turned angry the instant he mentioned this matter. "Haha, why don't you talk about the matter them trying to kill me? At that time we three tyke OONS of the extreme martial sect were almost on death's door. If young martial uncle had not arrived at the opportune moment and taken action, perhaps the old madman might have already annihilated your free immortal sea." Gu Dongchen sneered. Xiao Ziliang looked at Chen Xiang. He was shocked. Thinking about this matter, he just remembered that Chen Xiang was able to use his true qi in the Black Tortoise mysterious realm. If so, then the Nirvana realm elders had probably all been killed by Chen Xiang. Obviously, Tang Yichao, who had returned alive, would never mention this to anyone because it was far too shameful. He didn't dare to mention this. Impossible, I had told them they could never to resort to ruthless hands, Xiao Ziliang said with certainty. He was well aware of the consequences if Gu Dongchen and the others died. Huang Jintian's retribution was nothing to joke about. The old madman had always been one of strongest power of the extreme martial sect. How would you know? Do you think I wanted to kill them? At that time, it was them who attacked in the most fearsome and gruesome manner. They had probably been encouraged by the true martial sect and the beast martial sect. You better go and ask Tang Yichao to clarify this matter, Chen Xiang said. Upon hearing Chen Xiang say so, Xiao Ziliang was secretly feeling helpless. At such a young age, Chen Xiang had already killed so many Nirvana realm martial artists. Who in the world was going to believe this? If they have truly been killed by Chen Xiang, what could Xiao Ziliang do? He dreaded the consequences he would have to face if he did something to Chen Xiang. Isolated, Xiao Ziliang said. Upon hearing this, Gu Dongchen heaved a sigh of relief. His complexion suddenly turned heavy. Xiao Ziliang, you often travel overseas. Do you know why some guys haven't come? As Gu Dongchen asked this matter, a frown immediately appeared on Xiao Ziliang's face. He glanced at Chen Xiang and said, Little guy, you should leave now, it is better for you to stay away from this. Chen Xiang realized from the solemn expression on Gu Dongchen and Xiao Ziliang's face that the matter was rather serious. He became extremely intrigued about it, but he didn't expect he would be driven out. Gu Dongchen forcefully coughed and said, Young martial uncle, naturally, there are reasons why Xiao Ziliang is asking you to leave. Chen Xiang snorted, left in curiosity and anger. He suspected that Xiao Ziliang was aiming at him. How about you turn into a bird and eavesdrop on them? Su Meiyao suggested. Chen Xiang was also planning to do this, but Long Shui suddenly poured cold water on him. It's not going to be possible, the two of them have jointly laid down a barrier. It had not been long since he came out of the room, yet they had laid down a barrier. It was quite apparent how extraordinary this matter was. Are there many mainlands in the mortal martial world? If fewer people have arrived, what does this mean? Not to mention the entire mortal martial world. He didn't even completely understand just the Qinwu mainland. The mortal martial world was just a mortal world in the countless mortal worlds. There were thousands upon thousands of mortal worlds, and generally only Nirvana realm and above martial artists had the strength to travel around the world. If one wanted to navigate the worlds, he would have to find some rifts to cross. There are so much more, but even I am not aware of the exact number. Since Gu Dongchen said that some people have not arrived, something must have definitely happened. Su Meiyao was also pondering about what might have happened which caused the people of the other mainlands to be unable to come. When Chen Xiang was fighting with Xiao Chou, he had discovered many Nirvana realm martial artists around. As far as he was concerned, it was already quite spectacular, but according to Gu Dongchen, it was far less. Bai Yu said, some of the mainlands are very small and are lacking in resources. And naturally they are lacking in strong experts, they might just have only one sect. Now it seems, some small mainlands had sent a Nirvana realm dean and brought some apt disciples to attend the Hero A.'s assembly. It was very hard to perceive the cultivation of Nirvana realm martial artists, so as Su Meiyao and the others weren't able to tell their cultivation, they naturally didn't know who was strong and who was weak. If they could perceive their strength, then they could tell with surety whether they had come from these barren mainlands or not. The strength of a sect could generally be gauged by looking at the number of disciples and Nirvana realm martial artists as well as the strength of the dean. That was why it was very difficult to determine at the moment. Sister Yu, you suspect that these powerful mainland has not sent anyone? Chen Xiang asked. The demon and devils were going to invade through the Qinwu mainland. This was going to affect the entire mortal martial world. If these powerful mainlands were not going to help, didn't that mean that the Qinwu mainland would be exterminated? Thinking of this point, Chen Xiang's heartbeat became erratic. He was still sitting at the entrance of the room. He truly wanted to know what Gu Dongchen and Wu Keiming were discussing about. Su Meiyao said, "Senior sister's suspicion is not without any basis. After all, the mortal martial world is very vast. Gu Dongchen must have used some extreme martial sect's brilliant grade equipment which had been handed down from the past to transmit information with speed of light to every corner of the mortal martial world. Yet after so many months, only a handful of people have arrived." Bai Yu pondered for a bit and said, "How is it possible that the young disciples who have arrived are worse than the outstanding disciples of the Qinwu mainland? There are more than 60 mainlands, and yet only a few of them have challenged. If there were disciples from those powerful mainlands, they would not have let the extreme martial sect's disciples win so many rounds." Previously, Chen Xiang from Gu Dongchen came to know that many disciples from other mainland had all challenged the extreme martial sect, yet the extreme martial sects had won the majority of the fight. From this point, it was evident that the extreme martial sect's strength was comparable to a few dozen mainlands who had arrived. At this time, Chen Xiang suddenly understood one point. Gu Dongchen had allowed the extreme martial sect's disciples to fight with the disciples of the other mainland not only for the glory, he also wanted to take this opportunity to gauge the strength of these mainlands. Lu Menger had similarly taken Ling Yulan and Xue Xianxian to challenge everyone. Xiao Ziliang had also similarly made Xiao Chou seek opponents. Now Chen Xiang was completely sure that they have all done this to assess how strong these people from other mainlands were. Things seems to be very serious. Chen Xiang suddenly felt that he was too young, his experience was too shallow. Now, he very much wished to know what this meant. He immediately arrived at the divine weapon shop. Since everyone here knew Chen Xiang and Xue Xianxian's relation, he was not stopped and freely arrived at the top floor. Today, he came for Lu Menger. Maybe he could learn something. Realizing Chen Xiang had arrived, Xue Xianxian's body floated like a drifting smoke and arrived next to Chen Xiang. She laughed and said, "Where is your apprentice? Why didn't you bring him to meet with us?" Ling Yulan too was planning to make a few jokes, but noticing that Chen Xiang's complexion wasn't right, she asked, "Brother, what's the matter?" At this time, Xue Xianxian too noticed something was wrong. She took Chen Xiang's arm and asked, "Brother Xiang, what happened?" Chen Xiang heaved a little sigh, smiled and caressed Xue Xianxian's face before looking at Lu Menger. "Sister Menger, I want to ask you something." After Lu Menger offered Chen Xiang to sit, she said, "What are you waiting for? Aren't the guys from the other mainland very weak?" Chen Xiang asked in a solemn tone. "You don't need to worry about this, Sai." Lu Menger was stupefied for a moment. She heaved a light sigh. "This thing is very complicated. Even if you know, it will be useless because you can't do anything. Leave it to us, the Nirvana realm martial artists, to worry." Chen Xiang was startled, shook his head and said, "I can't do that. I am a resident of the Qinwu mainland. I too, like you, facing the dangerous situation. Furthermore, I have done plenty of things inside the 100,000 Devil Mountains, or else you won't be sitting here drinking tea with relief." Chen Xiang was indeed right. He had released Bai Ziqian in the 100,000 Devil Mountains, who had extinguished that powerful double-headed snake demon along with the army of evil demons, as a result of which the barrier disappeared. Otherwise, if the double-headed snake demon was alive, he would have brought that army of evil demons outside. Naturally, Lu Menger didn't know what Chen Xiang was talking about. And Chen Xiang too wanted to keep things about Bai Ziqian and the suppressing devil divine cultivation under wrap, so he also didn't say anything. "All right, I can only tell you that our Qinwu mainland is located in the Eastern Sea. In the Endless Sea, our mainland is like an island. Currently, only people from a few dozen mainlands have arrived, and these mainlands are weak in strength. You can say these mainlands are no bigger than the divine weapon Heavenly Empire, and their overall strength is very poor." Lu Menger helplessly sighed. She seemed to know some things. Chen Xiang knew Chenwu mainland was relatively big and fertile too. Otherwise, why else would it be so strong after so many years? Why else would it have so many powerful sects? Our Chenwu mainland is being isolated. Lu Menjie bitterly smiled. The Will of Martial Arts Way. The Will of Martial Arts Way Beansprout 1730th chapter of this month. At this time, Ling Yulan and Xue Xianxian too realized the gravity of the situation. If only the Chenwu mainland was going to be defending at the start of the great battle with the demon and devil world, then the end could be imagined. Just a single Chenwu mainland resisting the two demon and devil world? This was simply throwing an egg against the rock. Teacher, aren't there still those small mainlands? Haven't they arrived? Xue Xianxian said. Lu Menjie shook her head and said, Yes, they have come, but you can't say they have truly arrived of their own volition, they have all been sent. Even if they came, it will be far from enough. 100,000 years ago, the entire mortal martial world had exhausted itself to resist the demon and devils. Only then was it possible to save so many mainlands. The mortal martial world has 4 sea domains pertaining to the east, west, north, and south. Each sea domain has no less than 10 mainlands as strong as our Chenwu mainland. Furthermore, there are some which are even stronger than the Chenwu mainland. You are still very young and have not traveled to other mainlands. If you had, you would come to know that sects like Extreme Martial Sect are simply nothing in front of these forces. Nothing? Chen Xiang was having a difficult time understanding this. After all, Extreme Martial Sect's Gu Donghen was a Nirvana realm martial artist who had crossed 8 tribulations. He could be regarded as a martial artist standing at the apex of the mortal world. How can it be nothing? Chen Xiang still could not believe it. Lu Menjie said, Does Chenwu mainland have any sect with more than 1,000 true martial realm disciples? Do we have a sect with about 10 pairs? HI plus in golden body level elders? Paris. HI plus in golden body level. It was the Nirvana realm martial artists who had crossed the 7th tribulation, a sect having as many as 10. Their strength could only be imagined. More than 1,000 true martial realm martial artists. That was 10 times as much as the Extreme Martial Sect. If there was truly a sect like this, it was indeed a lot stronger than the Extreme Martial Sect. Why didn't these sects come? Isn't it better to block the demons and devils here? Once the demons and devils start invading, and if they scatter to other mainlands, wouldn't it endanger many mainlands? Chen Xiang asked in a powerless voice. He already knew he was an insignificant character, but he didn't expect that in the world he was living would actually have so many powerful figures stronger than the Extreme Martial Sect. 100,000 years back it was indeed so, but men are not what they were in the times of long ago. Now, everyone clears away the snow only in front of their door. How can they still be like before? Lu Menjie snorted. She too was feeling helpless in this matter. If so, once the demons and devils start invading, isn't our Chenwu mainland completely finished? Chen Xiang clenched his fist. Chenwu mainland was the home of countless civilians. And that's why NS of various sects are considering to evacuate. Bring the core disciples and enter some mysterious realm to take refuge inside. If not, they will all be exterminated. Now, Chen Xiang knew why Gu Dongchen and Xiao Ziliang didn't let him know about this. If the disciples came to know about this, or if this information was to spread to the civilians and they wanted to evacuate too, certainly, the entire Chenwu mainland would be in a state of chaos. Chen Xiang, do you know this fierce battle is going to continue for at least 100 years? Only relying on the forces of the Chenwu mainland, it would simply impossible to resist for so long. Lu Menjie knew what Chen Xiang must have been feeling at this moment. After all, they had to give up their homeland to survive. They were simply letting their homeland be trampled by these demons and devils. Many civilians would be killed in this catastrophe. At that time, a river of blood was going to flow in the Chenwu mainland. It would simply become a L in the human world. Shui Xian and Ling Yulan both were dispirited. It was simply the worst for them. They were martial artists, and the will of martial arts way was precisely to cut the demons, eliminate the devils, because according to the legends, in the ancient period the demons, devils and the humankind all resided in the same world. At that time the humans were weak, while the demons and devils were innately powerful. All humankind had been enslaved by them. Some humans could not take it lying down, so they created the road of martial arts to resist the demons and devils and also get rid of any adverse situation they might face in the future. They wished to go against the heavens and create a world of their own. Chen Xiang, with a broken heart, returned to the extreme martial sect. He tended to his herb garden and left the extreme Dan King courtyard for the forbidden area. He wanted to see his teacher. When he became his apprentice, Huang Jintian had told him a lot about the will of martial arts way. He could still remember it very clearly. Huang Jintian was surprised to see Chen Xiang return so quickly. Looking at the crestfallen Chen Xiang, he didn't torture him and directly asked the reason for his dispirited mood. After Huang Jintian came to know the reason, he started laughing. Listening to Huang Jintian's insane laughter, Chen Xiang felt doubtful. "Teacher, why are you laughing? Is it very funny?" Chen Xiang asked. "Little rascal, you are too tender. This is certainly very funny. If someone goes against their martial arts will, they will be finally abandoned by the martial arts way, they will not have a good end. That's why no matter what happens, you firmly stick to your belief. Use the martial arts you have learned to fight till death." Huang Jintian laughed and said. Since childhood, Chen Xiang held the martial arts way in awe and veneration because the martial arts way was extremely strong and could allow people to obtain strength, enable them to break SPAC and ascend to the heavenly realm. No one knew who created the martial arts way everywhere or when it began. Many didn't seem to care about it, and, over time, the sacred will of martial arts way was slowly forgotten. That was why many people who had obtained strength through cultivating in the way of martial arts did things which were contrary to the will of the martial arts way. It seems in the Eastern Sea only the Chenwu mainland almost remain unconquered. There is definitely some vicious guys manipulating the others from behind. Let me think, the Eastern Sea guys will definitely not be so stupid. They must know it would not do them any good if the Chenwu mainland fall. Huang Jintian stroked his long beard. His as deep as sea eyes glistened in an aura of wisdom. He was in the course of thinking about this. Chen Xiang knew his teacher was very formidable. At this moment, he was even more determined to stick to his belief till the end. Otherwise the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade fused with his body would not forgive him. He felt the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade, the black tortoise adamantal armor. These divine weapons were forged in light with the will of martial arts way, and the same was true for the suppressing devil divine exercise or any other divine exercises. If he went against the will of martial arts way, these divine exercises and divine weapons would abandon him. Huang Jintian suddenly sneered. His face unexpectedly revealed a trace of anger. This was the very first time he had seen his teacher angry. This made him shudder, even though Huang Jintian was only slightly angry. It must be the doing of those bastards. Brat, you can leave now, you don't need to worry about this for long. The Chenwu mainland is not going to be finished. Tell little Featherhead that he doesn't need to worry about any forces, he can deal with this in his own way. Huang Jintian spoke while grabbing Chen Xiang and gave him a kick, kicking him out of the pit. Chen Xiang cursed several times before quickly leaving this place. He would like to go down, but he knew if he went again, he must suffer torture for a good several months before he could leave that hole. When Chen Xiang arrived at the extreme Dan King courtyard, he unexpectedly found Wu Qianqian sitting at the entrance. She looked anxious. Noticing Chen Xiang was back, she quickly said, "Chen Xiang, Yao Haixing is beaten and is seriously injured." "What? Who was it?" Chen Xiang was furious, he yelled. He clenched his fists, which gave off a series of cracking of joint. Yao Haixing was his apprentice. Although they used have to some disagreements, they get along very well now. Whenever he has the time, he would guide Yao Haixing in alchemy. Now someone had beaten his apprentice, that was simply equal to hitting him in the face.